The night I caught my fiancé screwing my sister in a coat closet during the most important gala of my career, I did something unforgivable. I walked straight up to the most dangerous man in the room, a man whose name people only whispered, and I asked him to ruin me in front of everyone. One kiss. That's all it took to destroy my old life. But here's the thing about destruction. Sometimes it clears the ground for something bigger. If you want to know how a single moment of rage built an empire, stay with me until the end. Drop a comment with your city. I want to see how far this story travels. Now let me take you back to where it all burned down. The Rosewood Grand wasn't just a hotel. It was a statement. Vaulted ceilings that could swallow your ambitions whole, chandeliers that cost more than most people's houses, and a guest list that read like a Forbes feature come to life. Tonight, the California Wine Council was hosting their annual Legacy Gala, and I'd spent 6 months making sure I'd be here. Not as some +1 ornament, but as a professional. A sommelier who'd just landed a consulting contract with the Bellamy Hotel Group. 3 properties. 7 restaurants. My name on the wine program. I was 28 years old, and I was supposed to be untouchable. The dress helped. Midnight blue silk that moved like water, cut high enough to be elegant and low enough to be remembered. I'd blown half a paycheck on it. Derek said it made me look expensive. He'd said it in that way he had. Half compliment, half catalog assessment, but I'd taken it anyway. Validation from Derek Hale had become currency. I didn't realize I was collecting until I had pockets full of it. The ring on my finger caught the light as I lifted my champagne flute. 2 carats, emerald cut, platinum band. We'd been engaged for 4 months. The wedding was set for May. I'd already ordered save the dates printed on handmade paper that cost $4 a sheet. Lena Cross? I turned. A woman in her 50s, silver hair styled into a sleek bob, hand extended. I recognized her from the program, Margaret Chen, head sommelier at Oriole. Margaret, it's an honor. I shook her hand, matching her firm grip. I've been following your work. The Bellamy deal is impressive. Her eyes were sharp, assessing. You have a philosophy. That's rare in someone your age. Wine isn't just about the bottle. It's about the story you're telling. I'd said it 100 times, but I meant it every time. Pairing is narrative structure, she smiled. Exactly. Listen, we should talk. I'm expanding my consulting roster. Would you be interested in Lena? My sister's voice cut through the conversation like nails on glass. Claire appeared at my elbow, flushed and bright-eyed, wearing a red dress that was trying way too hard. She'd come as Derek's guest. He'd gotten her an invite through his family's vineyard connections. I'd thought it was sweet at the time. Sorry to interrupt, Claire said, not sounding sorry at all. Derek's looking for you. Something about the Montrachet tasting? Margaret's expression shifted, professional mask sliding into place. We'll continue this later. She handed me a card. Call me. I watched her disappear into the crowd, then turned to Claire. What Montrachet tasting? I don't know. He just said to find you. She was already scanning the room, attention somewhere else. This is incredible, isn't it? I mean, I knew you'd made it, but seeing it... Where is he? What? Derek. Where is he? She blinked. Oh, I think he went toward the terrace. Or maybe the gallery hall. I'm not sure. I felt something tighten in my chest. Not quite suspicion, just a frequency that was slightly off. You just said he was looking for me. He was, like 10 minutes ago. Claire grabbed a champagne flute from a passing tray. You're so intense tonight. Relax. Enjoy your moment. She drifted away before I could respond, and I stood there in the middle of the Rosewood Grand Ballroom, surrounded by the kind of people I'd spent years trying to impress, and felt suddenly completely alone. I found him 20 minutes later. Not on the terrace, not in the gallery hall. In a coat closet off the north corridor, where the gala guests left their furs and cashmere, where the lighting was soft and the door didn't quite close all the way. I saw the crack of light first. Then I heard her laugh, Claire's laugh, breathless and high. Then his voice, low and urgent. We can't keep doing this. Then stop. You know I can't. I should have walked away. Turned around, gone back to the gala, pretended I'd never heard it. That would have been the smart play. The survival play. Instead, I pushed the door open. They sprang apart like teenagers caught by parents. Derek's bow tie was undone. Claire's lipstick was smeared. The red dress was hiked up higher than it had been 10 minutes ago, and his hand was still on her thigh. For a moment, nobody moved. We just stood there in the dim coat closet, surrounded by thousands of dollars worth of outerwear, and stared at each other. Lena, Derek's voice cracked on my name. This isn't... How long? Claire made a sound, almost a laugh, almost a sob. Lena, please, just how long? I looked at my sister, my younger sister. The one I'd helped through college when Mom got sick. The one who'd been my maid of honor at the engagement party. How long have you been fucking my fiancé? Don't make it sound like that. Her voice went sharp, defensive. It's not some cheap affair. We have feelings. 6 months, Derek said. The number hit like a physical blow. 6 months. Before the engagement, before the ring, before I'd signed a lease on our apartment and put both our names on the lease. 6 months, I repeated. My voice sounded distant, like it was coming from someone else's throat. You proposed to me while you were sleeping with my sister. I was confused. He stepped forward, hands out like he was approaching a dangerous animal. Lena, I love you, I do. This thing with Claire, it's just what? Exciting, Claire said. I looked at her, really looked at her. She wasn't crying, wasn't apologizing. She was standing there in her too-tight dress with my fiancé's handprint still visible on her thigh, and she was telling me it was exciting. You're right, I said. This is exciting. I turned and walked out of the coat closet. Behind me, Derek called my name. Claire said something I didn't catch. I didn't stop. The ballroom was exactly as I'd left it. Same people, same laughter, same champagne flowing like water. Margaret Chen was talking to a cluster of vineyard owners by the bar. The Bellamy executives were holding court near the silent auction. Everything was perfect. I scanned the room until I found him. Adrian Voss. I didn't know much about him. Nobody did. He appeared at events like this the way storms appeared on the horizon. Inevitable, dangerous, impossible to ignore. He owned things. Properties, businesses, people. The specifics were deliberately vague. What I did know was that Derek's family had tried to partner with him once, and Adrian had crushed them so thoroughly they'd nearly lost their vineyard. He was standing alone near the windows, watching the room with the detached interest of someone observing an aquarium. Tall, dark suit that probably cost more than my car, and eyes that looked black from a distance. I walked straight toward him. People noticed. I felt the shift in attention, the subtle turning of heads. Lean across, the rising sommelier with the bright future and the perfect fiancé, crossing the ballroom toward Adrian Voss. It was the kind of moment people would remember. Good. He saw me coming. His expression didn't change, but something in his posture shifted. Recognition, maybe. Interest. I stopped directly in front of him, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. They weren't black. They were dark brown, almost amber in the light. I need you to do something for me, I said. His eyebrow lifted. Do I know you? Lean across, sommelier. And no, you don't. I took a breath. I need you to kiss me. Silence. He didn't move, didn't react, just studied me with those amber eyes like I was a wine he was considering. Why? Because my fiancé is about to walk out of that coat closet with my sister, and when he does, I want him to see me with you. Something flickered across his face. Not quite amusement. Revenge? Strategy. There's a difference? Revenge is emotional. Strategy is calculated. I met his stare. I'm being calculated. Behind me, I heard Derek's voice calling my name, getting closer. I didn't turn around. Adrian's gaze flicked over my shoulder, then back to me. You understand what you're asking? I understand exactly what I'm asking. Do you? He stepped closer. Not touching, but close enough that I could smell his cologne, something dark and expensive. Because the moment I touch you, everyone in this room will notice. They'll talk. They'll make assumptions. Your reputation, your career, your entire carefully constructed image, all of it will change. It's already changed. My voice was steady. I'm just choosing which direction. Derek's voice was louder now. Lena, wait! Adrian's hand came up and curved around the back of my neck. His palm was warm against my skin. Last chance to walk away. I don't walk away. He kissed me. Not soft, not gentle, nothing tentative or questioning about it. He kissed me like he owned me, like he'd already decided I was worth the trouble, and the world could spin off its axis for all he cared. I heard Derek stop, heard the sharp intake of breath from somewhere to my left, heard the conversation around us stutter and die. I didn't care. I kissed him back. When Adrian finally pulled away, his hand still on my neck, I was breathing hard. So was he. His eyes searched mine, looking for something. "Well," he said quietly, "you're either very brave or very stupid." Both, probably. The corner of his mouth lifted, almost a smile. "What's your name again?" "Lena Cross." "Lena Cross." He said it like he was tasting it. "I'm going to remember that." "You'd better." He released me, stepping back just enough to create space. Professional distance. But his eyes never left mine. That's when Derek reached us. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" His voice was loud enough to carry. Several heads turned. "Lena, what? Who is this?" I didn't look at him. Kept my eyes on Adrian. "This is Adrian Voss." Derek went pale. Actually pale. Lena, you can't what?" I finally turned to face him. Claire was a few steps behind, looking between us with wide eyes. "Can't kiss someone at a party? Can't move on? Can't make my own choices?" "This isn't moving on. This is insane. Do you have any idea who I know exactly who he is." My voice cut through his. "Do you know who I am?" "What? Do you know who I am, Derek?" I stepped closer to him. "Because I don't think you do. I think you see a sommelier with good connections, a woman who looks right on your arm at events, someone who will manage your family's failing vineyard and smile while you take credit. That's not... It is." I pulled the engagement ring off my finger, held it up between us. 6 months. "You've been sleeping with my sister for 6 months, and you still thought I'd marry you. That's not love. That's not even respect. That's just convenience." I dropped the ring into his hand. "Lena, please." Claire's voice, desperate now. "Can we just talk about this somewhere private?" "Private?" I looked at her. "Like a coat closet?" She flinched. "We're done," I said to both of them. "All of us. Whatever family we had, whatever relationship, it's done." "You're making a scene," Derek hissed. "Good." I smiled. Felt like glass in my mouth. "Let them watch." I turned back to Adrian. He was still standing there, observing the wreckage with that same detached interest. When I met his eyes, he tilted his head slightly. "Dinner," I said. "Excuse me?" "You owe me dinner for that kiss." His eyes narrowed. "I owe you? You kissed me in front of 300 people. The least you can do is feed me." For a moment, I thought he'd say no. Thought he'd walk away and leave me standing there with my burned bridges and my broken engagement and nothing to show for it but pride. Then he smiled. A real smile this time, sharp and dangerous. "Tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. I'll send a car. I don't know where you... I'll find you, Lena Cross." He stepped past me, past Derek and Claire, past the small crowd that had gathered to watch. At the edge of my vision, I saw him pause. "Wear something you can move in. We're not staying in one place." Then he was gone, and I was alone with the ruins of my old life. Margaret Chen appeared at my elbow. "That was quite a display. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to..." "Don't apologize." She handed me a fresh glass of champagne. "In this industry, you're either memorable or you're invisible. You just became memorable." I looked at the champagne. At Derek standing frozen with my engagement ring in his hand. At Claire crying now, finally. At the room full of people pretending not to stare. I think I just destroyed my career. "Maybe," Margaret shrugged. "Or maybe you just started a new one. Time will tell." She clinked her glass against mine. "For what it's worth. He was never good enough for you. The vineyard's failing because he doesn't understand wine. He understands status." "And Adrian Voss?" Her expression shifted, became careful. "Adrian Voss understands power. That's far more dangerous. Maybe I need dangerous right now." "Maybe you do." She drained her champagne. "Call me next week. We'll talk about that consulting position, assuming you're still interested." "Why would you still want to work with me?" Because you just proved you're willing to burn everything down when people betray you. Margaret's smile was sharp. In this business, that's an asset. She walked away, leaving me alone in the middle of the Rosewood Grand, holding a glass of champagne and wearing a dress that cost half a paycheck. I should have felt destroyed, humiliated, broken. Instead, I felt electric. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Car will pick you up at 7:45. Dress code. Impress me. A V. I stared at the message, at the initials that already felt branded into my brain. Another text came through. Derek this time. We need to talk. Please. This isn't over. I deleted it without responding. Then I finished my champagne, set the glass down on a passing tray, and walked out of the gala with my head high and my future uncertain. The night air hit me like cold water. I stood on the steps of the Rosewood Grand, looking out at the valet stand and the line of expensive cars and the city lights spreading out below. 24 hours ago, I'd had a fiancé, a sister, and a plan. Now I had a dinner date with the most dangerous man in the room and absolutely nothing to lose. I pulled out my phone and called my best friend. Lena? Where are you? I just saw everyone's talking about what the hell happened. Rebecca. I took a breath. I need a place to stay tonight, and I need you to tell me I'm not crazy. Are you okay? No. Where are you? Rosewood Grand, front steps. I'm 20 minutes away. Don't move. The line went dead. I stood there watching cars pull up and drive away, watching couples in evening wear climb the steps hand in hand. My phone buzzed again. Claire this time. I'm sorry. I never meant for it to happen like this. I almost laughed. She never meant for it to happen like this. Like there was a good way for it to happen. A clean way. A version where I found out gently, privately, where nobody had to see me break. I typed back, "You fucked my fiancé for 6 months. There was no version of this that wasn't going to hurt." Her response came immediately. "He was going to tell you." When? After the wedding. I stared at those 3 words. After the wedding. They were going to let me marry him. Let me stand in front of everyone we knew and promise forever to a man who was already breaking those promises with my sister. Another message. "It's not what you think. We're in love. Then I hope you're very happy together. Lena, please." I blocked her number. Then I blocked Derek's. Then I stood on the steps of the Rosewood Grand and felt the foundation of my entire life shift underneath me. Rebecca's car screeched up to the curb 30 minutes later. She threw the passenger door open. "Get in." I climbed in. She took one look at my face and didn't ask questions, just drove. We ended up at her apartment in Silver Lake, a tiny one-bedroom with plants everywhere and art on every wall. She made tea. I sat on her couch and told her everything. "Jesus Christ," she said when I finished. "Your sister? Your actual sister?" "Half-sister," I said like it mattered. "Still." "I know." She paced the length of her small living room. "And Adrian Voss? You just walked up to Adrian Voss and asked him to kiss you?" "Yes." "Lena, do you have any idea what people say about him?" "I don't care what people say about him." "You should." She stopped pacing. People don't just have dinner with Adrian Voss. He doesn't date. He doesn't do relationships. He does transactions. Good. That's what I need. What you need is a therapist and a lawyer, not a dinner date with someone who... She cut herself off. "Who what?" Rebecca sat down beside me. "There are rumors about his business, about how he makes his money, nothing proven, nothing concrete, but people are careful around him. For a reason. I'm not interested in his business." "Then what are you interested in?" I thought about the kiss, about the way he'd looked at me like I was a puzzle worth solving, about the current of power that had run between us when his hand touched my neck. "Revenge," I said. "Against Derek?" "Against all of it. The vineyard, the family, the whole perfect picture they were building while lying to my face." I looked at Rebecca. "I want to take everything they thought was theirs and make it mine." She studied me for a long moment. "You're serious?" "Completely. And you think Adrian Voss is going to help you do that?" "I think Adrian Voss is going to be interested in the opportunity." "What opportunity?" "Derek's family vineyard is failing. Everyone knows it. They're bleeding money, the wine is mediocre, and they're 6 months from selling to a corporate buyer. I leaned forward. But the land is good. The location is prime. With the right investment and the right direction, it could be something. And you want to what? Buy it out from under him? I want to take it over, completely. Turn it into something he could never build. I felt the idea taking shape as I spoke. And I want him to watch. Rebecca was quiet for a moment, then she laughed. You're either brilliant or insane. I'm both. You're going to need money, a lot of money. I know. And connections, and legal protection, and I know. I met her eyes. That's why I need Adrian Voss. Lena, listen to yourself. You're talking about using a man you just met to fund a revenge plot against your ex-fiancé. That's not strategy. That's desperation. Maybe. I didn't look away. But desperation is just another word for having nothing left to lose. She sighed. You're really doing this. I'm really doing this. Then you're going to need a better plan than impress the dangerous billionaire at dinner. I have until tomorrow night to figure it out. Rebecca stood up, went to her kitchen, and came back with a bottle of wine. Then we'd better start now. We stayed up until 4 in the morning, mapping it out. Rebecca had connections in the industry. She worked in PR for several Napa wineries, and she knew exactly how bad the Hale Vineyard situation was. They were drowning. The harvest had been weak for 3 years running. Derek's father had made bad investments. They'd taken out loans against the property. The corporate buyer, some faceless conglomerate, was offering pennies on the dollar, but it was the only offer they had. If you came in with a better offer and a solid plan, you could take it, Rebecca said. But you'd need at least $5 million to make it work. Probably more. How much more? Realistically, 7 to 10. That covers acquisition, immediate operations, and enough cushion to survive the first year. $10 million. I owned a used Honda and had about $30,000 in savings. Okay, I said. Okay. Rebecca stared at me. Lena, did you hear me? $10 million. I heard you. And you think Adrian Voss is just going to hand you $10 million because you kissed him at a party? No. I looked at her. I think Adrian Voss is going to invest $10 million because I'm going to show him exactly how much money he can make. The next day I called in sick to work. Spent 12 hours researching Adrian Voss. Rebecca was right. There wasn't much public information. He owned a private equity firm. Had investments in real estate, hospitality, luxury goods. The numbers were vague, the portfolio diverse. What was clear was that everything he touched turned profitable. Not just successful. Profitable. I found one interview from 5 years ago in a business journal. Most of it was standard corporate speak, but one quote stuck with me. I don't invest in businesses. I invest in people who understand value. Show me someone who knows the difference between price and worth, and I'll show you where to put my money. I read it 3 times. Then I started building my pitch. The car arrived at exactly 7:45. Black sedan, driver in a dark suit who didn't make small talk. He opened the door, I got in, and we drove into the city. I'd chosen black, simple dress, expensive shoes I'd borrowed from Rebecca, hair pulled back. I looked like money without trying too hard. We didn't stop at a restaurant. Instead, the car pulled up to a private airfield on the edge of the city. A small jet was waiting, engines already running. Adrian was standing at the base of the stairs. You said where something I could move in, I called over the engine noise. You didn't say where something I could fly in. Would you have come if I'd told you? Probably. He smiled. Then let's not waste time with probably. I climbed the stairs. The interior of the jet was exactly what I expected. Leather seats, dark wood, everything designed for comfort and power. Adrian settled into a seat across from me. Where are we going? I asked. Napa. My stomach tightened. Why Napa? Because you asked me to kiss you to make your ex-fiancé jealous. That means you care about revenge. And people who care about revenge care about context. He leaned back. So I'm giving you context. The jet took off. I watched the city lights fall away below us. How much do you know about Derek Hale's vineyard? Adrian asked. Enough. Tell me. 50 acres. Primarily Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot. Good soil, poor management. The family's been running it for 2 generations, but they don't understand modern markets. They think wine is about tradition. They're wrong. Wine is about evolution. And you think you could run it better? I know I could run it better. Why? Because I understand what Derek never will. I met his eyes. Wine isn't about the bottle or the label or the legacy. It's about the moment, the experience, the story someone tells themselves when they order it. I leaned forward. Derek sells wine like he's selling his family name. I'd sell wine like I'm selling transformation. Adrian was quiet for a moment. You've thought about this. I've thought about nothing else for the last 24 hours. And what do you think I want in exchange for helping you? Money, a return on investment, 30% profit within 3 years. I don't need money, Lena. Everyone needs money. I need projects that interest me. His gaze was steady. And right now, you interest me. Why? Because you walked into a room full of people who judge everything by appearance, and you chose chaos. He smiled slightly. That's rare. The jet started its descent. Through the window, I could see vineyard rows spreading out in neat lines lit by moonlight. We're going to the Hale property? I asked. No, we're going to mine. I stared at him. You own a vineyard in Napa? 3, actually. This one's my favorite. The jet touched down smoothly. Come on, I want to show you something. We drove through dark country roads, the kind where you can see stars and smell earth. When we finally stopped, it was at a modern building that looked more like an art installation than a winery, all glass and steel and clean lines. Inside, the space was cathedral quiet. Barrels lined the walls. The air smelled like oak and fermentation and time. Adrian led me through to a private tasting room. He selected a bottle from a climate-controlled case, opened it, poured 2 glasses. Taste, he said. I did. The wine was extraordinary. Complex, balanced, with a finish that lasted forever. 2018, I said. Bordeaux blend. This is... I stopped. This is from the Hale property. Close. It's from the neighboring parcel. Same soil, same microclimate, different vision. He watched me over the rim of his glass. I bought that land 5 years ago. Derek's father tried to buy it first. I outbid him. Why? Because I could see what it would become. He only saw what it was. Adrian set his glass down. That's the difference between us. And that's the difference between you and Derek. I felt something shift in the air between us. You're saying you'll help me. I'm saying I'm interested in the possibility. He moved closer. But I need to know you're serious. This isn't a game, Lena. If we do this, if I put my money and my name behind you, you become mine. My project, my risk, my responsibility. I'm not anyone's property. No, but you'd be my partner, and I don't take partnerships lightly. What would it look like, the partnership? We acquire the Hale Vineyard. You run it. I provide capital and connections. We split ownership 60-40. 70-30. In my favor. His eyebrow lifted. You have negotiating power here? You said I interest you. That's my negotiating power. He laughed. Actually, laughed. 60-40. That's my final offer. 51-49. I need controlling interest. Why? Because if I'm going to burn my old life down, I need to know I'm building something that's actually mine, not just another thing someone can take from me. Adrian studied me. I could see him calculating, weighing risks and rewards. 51-49, he said finally, but I have veto power on any financial decisions over 100,000. Deal. We shook hands. His grip was firm, warm. He didn't let go immediately. You understand this makes you mine in a different way, he said quietly. What way? The way that matters. You're in my world now, my circle. People will make assumptions. Let them. They'll think you're sleeping with me for money. Are you sleeping with me for money? He smiled. No, but I'm going to sleep with you eventually. My breath caught. Confident. Observant. He released my hand. That kiss wasn't strategy for you. It was permission. Permission for what? To want something messy. Something that doesn't fit into your careful plans. He stepped back. But we have time for that. First, we have a vineyard to steal. We flew back to the city at midnight. In the car back to my apartment, Rebecca's apartment, I corrected myself, Adrian handed me a business card. My lawyer, call him tomorrow. He'll start the paperwork. That fast? I don't believe in waiting once I've decided. The car stopped outside Rebecca's building. Adrian didn't get out. Thank you, I said. For tonight, for believing me. I don't believe you yet. His expression was serious. But I believe in the potential. Don't make me regret it. I won't. I got out of the car. He didn't drive away until I was inside the building. Rebecca was still awake, curled up on the couch with her laptop. Well? She demanded. We're buying the vineyard. She stared at me. What? We're buying the Hale vineyard. Me and Adrian. 51-49 split. I have controlling interest. Lena, holy shit. Lena. I sat down beside her. My hands were shaking. I think I just changed my entire life. I think you just started a war. Maybe. I looked at her. Is that bad? I don't know. Rebecca grabbed my hand, but I'm here either way. We sat there in her tiny apartment, holding hands, while the city lights blinked outside and my phone started buzzing with messages I didn't read. Somewhere across town, Derek Hale was probably sleeping peacefully, believing he'd won, believing I'd come crawling back eventually. He had no idea what was coming, and neither really did I. But I was ready to find out. The lawyer's office smelled like expensive leather and older money. Michael Brennan had the kind of face that gave nothing away, mid-50s, gray at the temples, eyes that had seen every negotiation tactic twice. He slid a folder across his desk toward Lena without preamble. Mr. Voss briefed me on the situation. The Hale family vineyard is leveraged to the ceiling. They owe First California Bank approximately $4.2 million. There's also a second mortgage with a private lender, another $1.8, equipment loans, operational debt, unpaid vendor invoices. He flipped open the folder. All told, you're looking at $7 million in liabilities before you even talk about acquisition cost. Lena scanned the documents. The numbers were worse than she'd thought. What's the property actually worth? As is? Maybe $8 million, with proper management and investment? Brennan shrugged. 15 to 20 within 5 years. Maybe more if you rebrand effectively. And the corporate buyer, the one currently in negotiations? Offering 6.5. Enough to clear the debt and leave the Hales with maybe $500,000 to split between the family. They're desperate enough to take it. He leaned back in his chair. You'd need to come in at 7 minimum to even get their attention. Preferably 8 to make it worth their while to break the existing agreement. 8 million. Lena did the math in her head. Plus operational costs, plus staffing, plus marketing, legal fees, permits, insurance, equipment upgrades. Brennan tapped the folder. Mr. Voss is prepared to front $12 million total. That gives you acquisition plus 18 months of operational runway. After that, you're profitable or you're done. 18 months. A year and a half to turn a failing vineyard into something that could sustain itself. Most turnarounds took 3 to 5 years. That's aggressive, Lena said. Mr. Voss doesn't do conservative investments. Brennan's expression didn't change. He expects returns or he cuts losses. There's no middle ground. I understand. Do you? He closed the folder. Because from where I'm sitting, you're a 28-year-old sommelier with no ownership experience, no management track record, and a personal vendetta against the previous owner. That's not a business plan. That's a liability. Lena met his stare. You're right. I don't have experience running a vineyard, but I have 10 years of experience understanding what makes wine sell. I know how to read a room, how to build a narrative, how to make people believe a bottle is worth $300 instead of $30. She leaned forward. Derek Hale knows how to make wine. He doesn't know how to make people want it. That's the difference. Brennan studied her for a long moment. Then he smiled slightly. Mr. Voss said you were interesting. I see what he means. He pulled out another document. This is the partnership agreement. Read it carefully. Sign nothing until you understand every clause. Lena took the contract. It was 40 pages long. How long do I have? The Hales are meeting with the corporate buyer Friday. That gives you 4 days. Brennan stood, signaling the meeting was over. I'd suggest you spend them wisely. Lena spent them working. She called in favors from every contact she'd ever made. Margaret Chen connected her with a vineyard manager who'd worked Napa for 20 years. Rebecca introduced her to a marketing consultant who specialized in luxury rebrands. She spent 12-hour days building spreadsheets, mapping out production timelines, calculating yield projections. At night, she barely slept, just lay in Rebecca's guest bed staring at the ceiling, running numbers in her head until they blurred into anxiety dreams about crushing debt and failed harvests. On Wednesday, Adrian called. "How's the preparation going?" "It's going." Lena rubbed her eyes. It was past midnight. She'd been reviewing soil reports for 3 hours. "I have a pitch. It's rough, but it's viable." "I want to see it." "When?" "Tomorrow. Lunch. I'll send a car." "Adrian, I'm not ready to." "You have 4 days until the Hales make their decision. If your pitch isn't ready now, it won't be ready Friday." His voice was firm but not unkind. "Trust me, you need the practice." He hung up before she could argue. The car picked her up at noon and took her to a restaurant she couldn't pronounce the name of. The kind of place where they didn't list prices on the menu because if you had to ask, you couldn't afford it. Adrian was already seated. He'd ordered wine, something French and probably obscene. "Talk me through it," he said before she'd even sat down. Lena pulled out her tablet. The Hale Vineyard is producing approximately 40,000 cases annually. Current wholesale price averages $35 per bottle. That's revenue of roughly $14 million before costs. Operating costs? Currently running about $12 million. That's inflated due to inefficiency and overstaffing. I can cut that to $9 million within 6 months. How? Automation in processing, better supplier contracts, reduce staff by 30%, and cross-train the remainder. She swiped to the next slide. That takes us from $2 million in profit to $5 million annually. Still not enough to justify a $12 million investment. Not yet. Lena pulled up her rebranding proposal. The real money isn't in volume, it's in premium positioning. We cut production by 20%, focus on quality over quantity, and triple the price point. Adrian's eyebrow lifted. You want to charge $100 per bottle for wine that currently sells for $35? I want to charge $200 for our signature label, $100 for mid-tier. Keep the $35 for our table wine. She met his eyes. People don't buy expensive wine because it tastes better. They buy it because it means something. Exclusivity, status, story. And what's your story? Resurrection. Lena felt the idea solidify as she spoke. The vineyard that came back from the dead. New ownership, new vision, old soul. We emphasize the land, the legacy, the craft, but we market it as evolution, not tradition. That's the opposite of what most Napa wineries do. Exactly. She leaned forward. Everyone else is selling heritage. We're selling transformation. That's our edge. Adrian was quiet for a moment, considering. The waiter appeared with their food, something that looked too artistic to eat. Lena ignored it. The numbers work, Adrian said finally, but you're missing something. What? Distribution. You can have the best wine in the world, but if you can't get it in front of buyers, it's worthless. He cut into whatever was on his plate. How are you planning to move product? Lena had been dreading this question. I have relationships with some high-end restaurants. The Bellamy Group contract gives me access to their sommelier network. I can leverage that for placement. That gets you maybe 10% of your target market. I know. So? So I need your connections. She looked at him directly. You said you have investments in hospitality. Hotels, restaurants, luxury retail. That's the market I need access to. You want me to use my influence to push your wine. I want you to use your influence to open doors. After that, the wine sells itself. Adrian smiled. You're learning. Learning what? How to ask for what you need without apologizing for it. He set down his fork. I'll make introductions. But you have to close the deals yourself. I'm not a sales team. I don't need a sales team. I need a chance. You'll get one. He pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. There's a wine auction Friday night, Napa Valley Collection. Every serious buyer in California will be there. I just got you a table. Friday? That's the same day the Hales are meeting with. I know. His eyes were sharp. You'll have to move fast. Pitch the Hales in the morning, close the deal by afternoon, and show up at the auction with confidence. Can you do that? Lena's pulse hammered. Yes. Don't say yes because you think it's what I want to hear. Say yes because you mean it. She took a breath. I can do it. Good. Adrian stood. The car will take you home. Use the next 2 days to refine your pitch. And Lena? Yeah? Wear something that makes you feel powerful. Confidence sells better than numbers. Thursday morning, Lena got a call from an unknown number. Is this Lena Cross? The voice was older, male, vaguely familiar. Who's asking? Richard Hale, Derek's father. Lena's stomach tightened. Mr. Hale, I heard you might be interested in making an offer on our property. His tone was carefully neutral. I wanted to speak with you directly before the Friday meeting. How did you hear that? Word travels in this industry, especially when Adrian Voss is involved. A pause. I'd like to meet. Just you and me. No lawyers, no intermediaries. Every instinct told Lena this was a trap. Why? Because I want to understand what you're really after. His voice hardened slightly. My son says you're trying to punish him. I want to know if that's true. When and where? Today, 3 o'clock. There's a cafe in Napa, Terra Grounds. Do you know it? I'll find it. She hung up and immediately called Adrian. Don't go alone, he said when she told him about the call. I have to. He specified no lawyers. Then I'm coming with you. Adrian, not negotiable. His tone left no room for argument. Richard Hale is a desperate man trying to save his family's legacy. Desperate men do stupid things. You're not walking into that without backup. They drove to Napa together. Adrian stayed in the car when they arrived, parked where he could see the cafe entrance but far enough away to maintain plausible deniability. Richard Hale was already seated when Lena walked in. He looked older than she remembered, late 60s, gray hair thinning, deep lines around his eyes. The stress of a failing business showed in every crease. Miss Cross? He stood, shook her hand. His grip was weak. Thank you for coming. Mr. Hale, Lena sat across from him. You wanted to talk. He ordered coffee neither of them touched. Then he looked at her with something that might have been sadness or might have been anger. My son made a mistake, he said. Several mistakes, apparently. What happened between you two, that's personal. That's between you and him. He leaned forward. But my vineyard, that's not personal. That's my life, my father's life, 3 generations of work. I understand that. Do you? His voice sharpened. Because from where I'm sitting, you're using my family's crisis as an opportunity for revenge. You're partnering with a man who tried to destroy us once before, and you're going to do it again under the pretense of a business deal. Lena kept her expression calm. Adrian outbid you on a land parcel. That's not destruction. That's competition. He knew we needed that land. Knew we'd mortgaged everything to try to get it, and he swept in at the last minute and took it just to prove he could. Richard's hands tightened around his coffee cup. Now you're doing the same thing with the vineyard. No. Lena met his eyes. I'm offering you $8 million for a property that's worth maybe 6 in its current state. I'm offering to clear your debts and give you a clean exit. That's not revenge. That's business. Why should I believe you'll do right by the land? Because I actually care about wine. Derek doesn't. He cares about status and legacy and what people think. But wine? She shook her head. Wine is just the vehicle for all that. He'd be just as happy running a luxury car dealership. Something flickered in Richard's expression. Recognition, maybe. You're not wrong, he said quietly. Derek never loved the vineyard. Not the way I did. Not the way my father did. He looked out the window at the rolling hills. I pushed him into it. Thought he'd grow into it. He didn't. So sell it to someone who will love it. You? Me. Richard was silent for a long moment. The corporate buyer is offering 6.5. You're offering 8. That's $1.5 million more for my family. That's not nothing. No, it's not. But if I sell to you, Derek will never forgive me. He'll think I'm choosing your side over his. You're not choosing sides. You're choosing the best option for your family's future. Lena leaned forward. In 5 years, that vineyard will be worth $20 million under my management. Under corporate ownership, it'll be worth 0. They'll strip the land, sell the parcels, and erase 3 generations of work. Is that what you want? No. Then make the right choice. Richard studied her. You're tougher than I thought. I have to be. Derek really hurt you. Yes. I'm sorry for that. For what it's worth. Lena didn't respond. Apologies from Derek's father didn't change anything. Richard pulled out his phone, made a call. Michael, it's Richard Hale. That meeting Friday with Pacific Coast Holdings, cancel it. A pause. Because I'm accepting a different offer. Lena Cross and Adrian Voss. $8 million, full debt clearance. Another pause. Yes, I'm sure. Draw up the paperwork. He hung up and looked at Lena. You have your vineyard. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Derek is going to fight this. So is Claire. They're going to make your life hell. Let them try. Richard stood, dropped cash on the table for the coffee. One more thing. Derek thinks he's the victim in all this. Thinks you're the one who betrayed him by kissing another man. He shook his head. But I know my son. I know what he's capable of. Whatever you're planning, however you're going to rebuild that vineyard, I hope it's spectacular. I hope you make it into something he could never achieve. I will. Good. He walked toward the door, then paused. And Miss Cross, be careful with Adrian Voss. He's not the kind of man who invests in anything without expecting a return. Make sure you know what he's really after. Then he was gone, leaving Lena alone in the cafe with a successful negotiation and a warning she couldn't quite shake. Adrian was leaning against the car when she came out. Well? We have it. He's canceling the corporate deal. Adrian's smile was sharp and satisfied. I knew he would. How? Because Richard Hale is a romantic. He wants to believe his vineyard matters, that it's more than just assets and debt. Adrian opened the car door for her. You gave him that belief. They drove back in silence. Lena watched the vineyard rows blur past the window, tried to process the fact that she'd just acquired a multi-million-dollar property with money that wasn't hers, and a plan that was mostly confidence and spite. You're quiet, Adrian observed. I'm thinking. About? About what Richard said. About you expecting returns. She looked at him. What do you really want from this? I told you, I want to see what you build. That's not an answer. Adrian was quiet for a moment. I've spent 15 years making money, building companies, acquiring assets, watching numbers go up. It's profitable. It's safe. It's also boring. He glanced at her. You're not boring. So I'm entertainment? Your possibility. His voice was serious. You walked into a gala and decided to detonate your entire life because someone betrayed you. That's not rational. It's not safe. It's the kind of decision that either destroys you or transforms you. He turned his attention back to the road. I want to see which one it is. And if it destroys me, then I'll have lost $12 million and learned an expensive lesson about backing passion over experience. That doesn't bother you? I've lost more on worse bets. He smiled slightly. At least this one is interesting. Lena wanted to push further, to dig into what he meant by interesting, but her phone rang. Rebecca. Tell me you closed the deal. I closed the deal. Rebecca screamed so loud Lena had to pull the phone away from her ear. Oh my God. Oh my God. You actually did it. You're buying the Hale Vineyard. We're buying it, Adrian and me. Same thing. Holy shit, Lena. Do you realize what this means? That I'm insane? That you're brilliant. That you just pulled off the most dramatic career pivot I've ever seen. That you... Wait, does Derek know yet? Not yet. Richard is telling him today. Oh, this is going to be so good. Can I be there when it happens? Rebecca? I'm kidding. Mostly. A pause. Are you okay? Like, actually okay? Lena considered the question. Was she okay? She'd just committed to a $12 million investment with a man she barely knew, leveraged her entire future on a vineyard she'd never managed, and declared war on her ex-fiancé and his family. I'm terrified, she admitted. Good. That means you're paying attention. Rebecca's voice softened. But you've got this. I know you do. How do you know? Because you're the person who memorized every wine region in France by the time you were 22, just so you'd never look stupid in front of a customer. You're the person who rebuilt the entire wine program at Meridian after they fired the head sommelier and left you with a disaster. You don't do anything halfway. A pause. This is just bigger. This is a lot bigger. Then it's a good thing you're not doing it alone. After they hung up, Adrian glanced at her. Your friend is right. About what? You don't do anything halfway. I saw that the moment you asked me to kiss you. He pulled into the parking garage beneath his office building. Come upstairs. I want to show you something. His office was on the 20th floor. Glass walls, city views, furniture that looked like art installations. He led her to a conference room where a scale model sat on the table. What is this? Lena asked. The vineyard, as it is now. Adrian touched a section of the model. And this, he pulled out a second model from beneath the table, is what it could be. The second model was transformed. New buildings, expanded tasting rooms, a hotel structure on the northern parcel. A hotel? Boutique, 20 rooms, maybe 30, high-end wine tourism. Adrian pointed to different sections. Restaurant here, private event space here, extended tasting experience here. You're not just selling wine, you're selling an entire experience. Lena stared at the model. Adrian, this is a completely different business. It's the same business elevated. Wine tourism is a billion-dollar industry in Napa. Most vineyards are still operating like it's 1990. You want to compete, you need to offer something they don't. This would cost another $15 million minimum. He met her eyes. Which is why it's phase 2. First, you stabilize the vineyard, prove the concept works. Then we expand. You've already planned this. I've considered possibilities. Adrian smiled slightly. I told you, I don't invest without knowing the full landscape. Lena's phone buzzed. A text from a number she didn't recognize at first, then realized was Derek's. He must have changed phones or she'd deleted the old number wrong. You're making a mistake. My father doesn't understand what you're doing. Call me. She showed Adrian the message. Are you going to respond? No. He'll escalate. Let him. Another text came through. This isn't business. This is you trying to hurt me. I know you, Lena. You're not this person. He's right about one thing, Lena said. What? I'm not this person. The person he knew would have forgiven him, would have believed some story about confusion and mistakes and worked through it. She looked at Adrian. I don't want to be that person anymore. Then don't be. The phone rang. Derek calling now instead of texting. Lena declined it. He called again. She declined again. Then a voicemail notification appeared. She played it on speaker. Derek's voice came through, tight and angry. Lena, I know you're there. I know you're doing this to punish me. Fine. You want to play games? We'll play games. But you need to understand something, that vineyard is my family's legacy, not yours. You don't get to just take it because I made a mistake. A pause. Claire wants to talk to you. Just call her, okay? She's a mess. She thinks you hate her. The voicemail ended. Does she? Adrian asked. Hate her? Lena thought about it. About Claire in that red dress with Derek's hands on her. About 6 months of lies. About the engagement party where Claire had toasted their future while sleeping with the groom. No, she said finally. I don't hate her, I just don't care anymore. That's worse. I know. The next 24 hours were chaos. The lawyers worked through the night finalizing contracts. Lena signed documents until her hand cramped. Michael Brennan walked her through every clause, every contingency, every risk factor. Once you sign this, you're committed, he said. No backing out, no buyer's remorse. You own this. I understand. Do you? Because this isn't like ordering wine for a restaurant. This is debt. This is employees depending on you. This is a business that will consume your life for the next 5 years minimum. I know. He studied her. Why are you really doing this? Because I can. That's not a reason. That's ego. Maybe. Lena met his eyes. But ego built most of the successful businesses in this city. Why should mine be different? Brennan almost smiled. Sign here. She signed. Friday morning arrived too fast. Lena woke up in Rebecca's apartment with a headache and a stomach full of anxiety. The official transfer wouldn't happen for another week. Due diligence, inspections, final approvals, but the deal was done. Binding. Real. Her phone had 17 missed calls, 12 from Derek, 3 from Claire, 2 from numbers she didn't recognize. She ignored all of them and got dressed for the auction. The dress was Rebecca's idea, deep emerald silk that looked black in certain light, fitted in a way that made Lena feel like a weapon. She paired it with the shoes she'd worn to the gala, the ones that had carried her across the ballroom toward Adrian. "You look like you're about to ruin someone's life," Rebecca said. "Good." Adrian's car arrived at 6. The auction started at 7, but he'd told her to be early. "Why?" she'd asked. "Because the real deals happen before the event starts. After is just theater." He was waiting in the car, wearing a tux that probably cost more than her monthly rent. He looked her over when she climbed in. "You'll do," he said. "Just do?" "If I said what I actually thought, we'd be late." The auction was held at the Meadowood Estate, one of those Napa properties that existed primarily to make rich people feel sophisticated. The parking lot was full of cars that cost 6 figures. The crowd was dressed like they were attending the Oscars. Adrian guided her through the entrance with a hand on her lower back. People noticed. She felt eyes tracking them, heard whispers. "They're wondering who you are," Adrian said quietly. "Let them wonder." Inside, the main hall was set up with auction tables and display cases showing off bottles that would sell for thousands. Adrian introduced her to a steady stream of people whose names she immediately forgot. Investors, collectors, restaurant owners, hotel executives. "Lena is launching a new venture," he'd say. "Premium Napa label, worth watching." Some were polite, some were skeptical. A few were openly dismissive. "Another boutique vineyard?" one man said, waving a hand. "Napa's saturated. Unless you've got something revolutionary, you're dead in the water." "We have vision," Lena said. "That's more revolutionary than most people realize." The man laughed. "Vision doesn't pay invoices, sweetheart." Adrian's expression went cold. "Careful, Marcus. You're talking to my partner." The man's smile faltered. "I didn't mean, I know exactly what you meant." Adrian's voice was quiet but sharp. "Lena isn't looking for your approval. She's looking for your business. And in 6 months, when you're trying to get our wine on your list, remember this conversation." He steered Lena away before the man could respond. "You didn't have to do that," she said. "Yes, I did. People like Marcus only respect power. You show weakness, they'll eat you alive." They found their table. Lena barely touched the food. She was too busy watching the room, identifying buyers, calculating which relationships would matter. The auction started at 8. Bottles went for staggering prices: $15,000 for a Romanée Conti, $22,000 for a Petrus, $35,000 for something Lena had never heard of, but apparently mattered. Halfway through, her phone buzzed. A text from Derek's mother this time. "Please reconsider. This will destroy our family." Lena turned the phone face down. During a break between lots, a woman approached their table. Late 40s, platinum blonde, dressed like she owned the building. "Adrian Voss, I heard you were here." She had an accent, French maybe. "And this must be the mysterious partner everyone's whispering about." "Lena Cross," Adrian said. "Lena, this is Isabelle Moreau. She owns La Colline." Lena knew the name. La Colline was one of the most exclusive restaurants in San Francisco. 3 Michelin stars, 6-month waiting list. "Enchanted," Isabelle said, though her tone suggested the opposite. "Adrian tells me you're opening a vineyard." "Acquiring one. The Hale property." Isabelle's eyebrows lifted. "Richard Hale's vineyard? That old disaster?" She laughed. "Darling, that place has been hemorrhaging money for years. Why would you possibly want it?" "Because I see what it could be, not what it is." "How philosophical." Isabelle sipped her champagne. "And what exactly could it be?" "The best wine tourism destination in Napa within 5 years." "Bold claim." "I don't make claims I can't back up." Isabelle studied her. "I like you. You're either crazy or brilliant. Either way, you're interesting." She pulled out a card. "Send me samples when you bottle your first vintage. If it's good, I'll put it on my list." "It'll be better than good." "We'll see." Isabel walked away, leaving Lena holding a business card that felt like a challenge. That went well, Adrian said. She thinks I'm insane. She's intrigued. That's better. He stood, offered his hand. Come on, there's someone else you need to meet. He led her to a private room off the main hall where a man in his 70s sat alone, reviewing documents. He looked up when they entered. Adrian, right on time. Robert, this is Lena Cross. Lena, Robert Castellano. Lena recognized the name immediately. Castellano owned half the luxury hotels in Northern California. His properties defined high-end hospitality. Miss Cross, Adrian tells me you're planning something ambitious. That's one way to put it. Robert smiled. Sit. Tell me about it. For the next 20 minutes, Lena laid out her vision, the vineyard transformation, the boutique hotel concept, the integrated wine tourism experience. Robert listened without interrupting, occasionally making notes. When she finished, he was quiet for a moment. It's expensive, he said finally. It's worth it. Maybe, maybe not. He set his pen down. But I'm interested. Send me your full business plan when it's complete. If the numbers work, I might be willing to partner on the hospitality side. Lena's heart hammered. Seriously? I don't joke about business, Miss Cross. He stood, shook her hand. Prove you can execute on the vineyard side first. Then we'll talk hotels. After he left, Lena turned to Adrian. Did that just happen? It just happened. But Robert Castellano wants to partner with me. He wants to partner with potential. Now you have to deliver it. The auction ended at midnight. Adrian drove her back to the city in comfortable silence. Lena stared out the window at the dark highway, trying to process everything that had happened in the last week. 7 days ago, she'd been engaged, employed, safe. Now she owned a vineyard, was partnered with a man who terrified and fascinated her in equal measure, had committed to a plan that would either make her or destroy her. You're thinking too much, Adrian said. How can you tell? You haven't said anything in 20 minutes. That's unusual for you. She looked at him. What happens now? Now you get to work. The vineyard transfers officially next Friday. After that, it's yours to transform. And you? I'll be around, advising, investing, making sure you don't drive my $12 million into the ground. He glanced at her. Why? I'm trying to figure out what we are. We're partners. Just partners? Adrian smiled slightly. Is that a question or an invitation? I don't know yet. Fair enough. He pulled up outside Rebecca's building. For what it's worth, I think you're going to be spectacular at this. Terrifying and probably reckless, but spectacular. Is that a compliment? It's an observation. He leaned across the console, close enough that she could smell his cologne. But yes, it's also a compliment. He kissed her. Not like the kiss at the gala. That had been performance. This was something else. Private. Real. A promise of complications Lena didn't have time to think about. When he pulled back, his eyes were dark. Now get out of my car before I forget we have a business to build. Lena climbed out, legs shaky. Adrian drove away without looking back. Rebecca was waiting inside, curled up on the couch with wine. How was it? Overwhelming. Good overwhelming or bad overwhelming? I honestly don't know. Lena collapsed beside her. Robert Castellano wants to partner on a hotel. Isabel Moreau wants to carry our wine. Derek's family is imploding. And Adrian what? Kissed me in the car. Rebecca's eyes went wide. Shut up. I know. Like kissed you? Yeah. And I have no idea what I'm doing with any of this. The vineyard, the business, him, all of it. Lena dropped her head back against the couch. I'm in so far over my head. Maybe. Rebecca refilled both their glasses. Or maybe you're finally swimming in water deep enough to matter. Lena's phone buzzed one last time. A text from a number she didn't recognize. This isn't over. Claire. She stared at the message, then deleted it. Let her think it's not over, she said to Rebecca. By the time she figures out it is, I'll already be gone. Gone where? Forward. Lena raised her glass. To burning bridges and building empires. Rebecca clinked her glass against Lena's. To not knowing what the hell you're doing and doing it anyway. They drank, and somewhere in Napa, a vineyard waited to be transformed. The vineyard looked worse in daylight. Lena stood at the edge of the property on a Tuesday morning, staring at rows of vines that hadn't been properly maintained in years. Weeds choked the irrigation lines. Equipment rusted in open sheds. The main building, a farmhouse converted into offices and a small tasting room, had peeling paint and a roof that sagged in the middle. "This is what $8 million buys," she said aloud. "This is what potential looks like before you polish it." Adrian appeared beside her, hands in his pockets. He'd driven up separately, claimed he had other business in Napa. Lena suspected he just wanted to see her reaction to the reality of what she'd bought. "It's a disaster." "It's yours." A truck pulled up the gravel drive, kicking up dust. A man climbed out, 50s, weathered face, flannel shirt with the sleeves rolled up. He walked over with the gait of someone who'd spent his life working land. "You the new owner?" Lena Cross. She extended her hand. "And you are?" "Tom Ferraro. I've been managing this place for the last 8 years." His handshake was firm, calloused. "Heard the transfer went through. Wanted to see if I still have a job." Lena had reviewed the employee files. Tom was the only one worth keeping. Everyone else was family nepotism or legacy hires who'd stopped caring years ago. "You have a job if you want it. I'm cutting the staff by half, but you stay." "Half?" Tom's eyebrows went up. "That's 16 people. 16 people who aren't producing results." Lena pulled out her tablet, showed him the numbers. "The vineyard is running at 30% efficiency. That's not sustainable. Those people have families, mortgages. And I have a business to save. I'll give them severance at 2 weeks for every year worked. That's more than fair." Tom studied her for a long moment. "You're not what I expected." "What did you expect?" "Someone softer." "Derek's fiance, plain vineyard owner." He shrugged. "This is better." "Good. Because I need someone who knows this land inside out. Someone who can tell me what's salvageable and what needs to burn." "Literally or figuratively?" "Both." Tom almost smiled. "When do you want to start?" "Right now." They spent the next 4 hours walking every inch of the property. Tom pointed out problems Lena hadn't even considered. Drainage issues in the eastern section, a fungal infection spreading through the Merlot vines, equipment that looked functional but was held together with duct tape and prayer. "The previous owners stopped investing about 5 years ago," Tom explained. "Just tried to squeeze out whatever they could until they could sell. It worked, I guess, but it killed the quality." "Can we fix it?" "Depends on your timeline and your budget." 18 months and whatever it takes." Tom laughed. "Whatever it takes? You got money to burn?" "I have money to invest." "There's a difference." Lena crouched beside a vine, ran her fingers over the leaves. They were yellowing, stressed. "What's the realistic timeline to turn this around?" "For the vines? 3 years minimum. You can't rush terroir." "I don't have 3 years." "Then you're going to have to get creative." Tom pulled out a knife, trimmed a dead branch. "You could focus on what's already working. The Cabernet in the western section is solid. Not great, but solid. Harvest that, bottle it as your flagship, and use the profit to fund improvements on the rest. That's playing it safe." "That's playing it smart." Adrian had been quiet during the tour, observing. Now he spoke up. "What if we did both? Harvest the Cabernet for immediate revenue, but also plant a new experimental section, something bold." Tom looked skeptical. "Experimental how?" "Own varietals. Syrah, maybe Grenache. Something that isn't competing directly with every other Napa vineyard." "That's risky. Napa's known for Cab and Chardonnay. You start planting Rhone grapes, people are going to question your sanity." "Let them question." Lena stood, brushing dirt from her hands. "Adrian's right. We need differentiation. Playing it safe is what killed this vineyard in the first place." Tom sighed. "You're both crazy, but it's your money." He pointed to the southern section. "That area gets the best sun. If you're going to experiment, do it there. I'll draw up plans." After Tom left, Lena and Adrian walked back to the farmhouse. Inside, it smelled like mildew and old wood. The tasting room had a bar that looked like it was built in the 80s and never updated. Promotional materials from 2015 gathered dust on shelves. "This needs to be gutted," Lena said. Agreed, but that's phase two. Adrian leaned against the bar. First phase is making wine people actually want to buy. The aesthetics come after. The aesthetics are part of the story. The story doesn't matter if the product is mediocre. The product won't be mediocre. How do you know? Lena turned to face him. Because I'm not going to let it be. I'll taste every barrel, approve every blend, control every decision until this place produces something worth the price tag. Adrian smiled. There she is. There who is? The woman who asked me to kiss her in front of 300 people. He pushed off the bar, moved closer. I was starting to wonder if she'd disappeared under all the spreadsheets and business plans. She's still here, just focused. Too focused. His hand came up, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. You haven't slept in 3 days. I can see it. How would you know how much I've slept? Because I've been watching. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. You're running on adrenaline and spite. That works for a while. Then it doesn't. I'll sleep when the harvest is secure. The harvest is 4 months away. Then I'll sleep in 4 months. Adrian laughed, dropped his hand. You're impossible. You invested $12 million in impossible. Don't remind me. But he was smiling. Come on, I'm taking you to dinner. I have work, not negotiable. You need to eat, and we need to talk about something that isn't vines or profit margins. They drove to a restaurant in St. Helena, a small Italian place that didn't take reservations but somehow had a table ready when Adrian walked in. The owner greeted him by name, brought wine without being asked. You come here often? Lena asked. Often enough. Adrian poured for both of them. It's quiet. No one bothers me. And yet here I am, bothering you. You're different. How? He considered the question. Most people want something from me. Money, connections, access. They're transactional. And I'm not transactional? You are. But you're honest about it. You asked me to kiss you because you needed leverage. You partnered with me because you needed capital. You don't pretend it's anything else. Would you prefer if I pretended? No. He met her eyes. I'd prefer exactly what you're giving me, which is a woman who's terrified but doing it anyway. Lena took a drink of wine to avoid responding. It was excellent, something northern Italian, structured but elegant. How did you know? She asked after a moment. Know what? That I was terrified. Because you're smart enough to be. Anyone who isn't scared taking on a project like this is either delusional or too stupid to see the risks. Adrian leaned back. But being scared doesn't mean you quit. It means you're paying attention. The food arrived. Pasta that was somehow both simple and perfect. They ate in comfortable silence until Adrian's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned, typed something quickly. Problem? Lena asked. Maybe. I need to take a call. I'll be back. He stepped outside. Through the window, Lena watched him pace, phone pressed to his ear. His expression was tight, controlled. Whatever the conversation was, it wasn't good. He came back 10 minutes later, face carefully neutral. Everything okay? Fine. He didn't elaborate. Where were we? You were telling me I'm terrified. Right. But the easy mood was gone. Adrian was distracted now, checking his phone twice more before their food was finished. Adrian, what's wrong? Nothing you need to worry about. That's not an answer. He set down his fork. It's business. Separate from the vineyard. It doesn't concern you. If it affects you, it affects our partnership. It doesn't affect our partnership. His tone was firm. Trust me on this. But Lena had spent 10 years reading people in high-pressure environments. She knew when someone was lying by omission. Is it legal trouble? Adrian went very still. Why would you ask that? Because people don't get that tense over normal business calls. And because Richard Hale warned me about you, said there were rumors. Richard Hale is a bitter man protecting his failures. That's not a denial. Adrian stood abruptly, dropped cash on the table. We should go. They drove back in silence. Lena watched the dark countryside blur past, felt the shift between them. Something had cracked open that Adrian didn't want exposed. When they reached her car at the vineyard, he finally spoke. My business is complicated. There are aspects you don't need to understand. Complicated how? Complicated in ways that keep you safe by not knowing. He looked at her. You want to build a vineyard. I want to help you do that. Everything else is separate. Nothing's separate when we're partners. Then maybe we need to redefine what partnership means. His voice was harder now. I fund the dream. You execute it. My other business stays mine. That's the deal. That wasn't the deal we made. It's the deal we have now. Lena felt anger rising. You can't just change terms because you're uncomfortable. I can do whatever I want. I'm the one with the money, remember? The words landed like a slap. Lena stared at him, watched his expression shift from defensive to regretful the moment after he said it. Lena, no, you're right. She opened the car door. You have the money, which means you have the power. I get it. That's not what I meant. It's exactly what you meant. She climbed in, started the engine. Thanks for dinner. She drove away before he could respond, anger and hurt warring in her chest. By the time she reached Rebecca's apartment, she'd gone through a dozen emotions and landed on furious. Rebecca took one look at her face. What happened? Adrian's hiding something bad enough that he got defensive when I pushed. What kind of something? I don't know. But Richard Hale warned me, said Adrian's business wasn't clean. Lena paced the small living room. And tonight he basically told me to stay out of it. Said I don't need to know. Maybe you don't. Lena stopped. What? Maybe you don't need to know. Maybe his business is his business, and you focus on the vineyard. Rebecca held up a hand. I'm not defending him. I'm saying pick your battles. You have enough to deal with without digging into whatever Adrian's got going on. But what if it affects the vineyard? Has it? Not yet. Then cross that bridge when you get to it. Rebecca pulled out her laptop. Speaking of bridges, you need to see this. She turned the screen. It was a blog post from a Napa wine industry site. The headline read, Former Hale Vineyard under new management. Can Lena Cross save a sinking ship? The article wasn't cruel, but it wasn't kind either. It outlined her lack of experience, questioned her partnership with Adrian, speculated about whether this was a vanity project or a serious business venture. They're already writing you off, Rebecca said quietly. Good. Let them underestimate me. Lena, I'm serious. The lower their expectations, the better I look when I succeed. And if you don't succeed? Lena met her friend's eyes. Then I'll have failed spectacularly enough that at least I'll be interesting. Her phone rang. Adrian, she declined it. He called again. She declined again. A text came through. I'm sorry, let me explain. She didn't respond. Another text. I'm outside. Lena went to the window. Adrian's car was parked on the street below, and he was leaning against it, looking up at her building. Is he serious right now? Rebecca peered over her shoulder. It's midnight. He's dramatic. Are you going down? Lena wanted to say no, wanted to let him stand there and freeze and realize you couldn't just throw money at a problem and expect it to disappear. But she also needed answers, and Adrian wasn't going to leave until she got them. She grabbed her jacket and went downstairs. Adrian straightened when she came out. Thank you for... Don't, just tell me what's going on. He looked at her for a long moment. Not here. Get in the car. Adrian, please. Something in his voice made her comply. They drove to a lookout point overlooking the valley. The city lights spread out below like scattered diamonds. Adrian killed the engine but didn't move to get out, just sat there, hands on the steering wheel, staring at nothing. I'm under investigation, he said finally. Lena's stomach dropped. For what? Financial crimes? Money laundering, racketeering, tax evasion, the whole catalog. His voice was flat. The FBI's been building a case for 18 months. They haven't charged me yet, but they will. Are you guilty? That's a complicated question. No, it's not. Did you commit crimes? Adrian turned to look at her. I built a business in an industry that operates in gray areas. I made deals with people who weren't clean. I moved money in ways that benefited me and my investors. Was all of it strictly legal? He paused. Probably not. Lena felt the floor drop out. Jesus Christ. I didn't kill anyone, didn't hurt anyone directly, but did I cut corners? Absolutely. Did I partner with people who were less concerned with legality than profit? Yes. And now? Now the government wants to make an example, show that they're tough on white-collar crime. And I'm the perfect target, high-profile, successful, arrogant enough to think I was untouchable. Are you? Untouchable? No? He looked back out the window. My lawyers think I'm looking at 5 to 10 years, maybe more if they push hard. The number hit like a physical blow. 5 to 10 years. Half a decade, minimum. When will they charge you? Could be next week, could be 6 months. They're building an airtight case before they move. And the vineyard? The vineyard is clean, completely separate from my other investments. Your partnership with me is documented, legal, transparent. Adrian turned to face her fully. Whatever happens to me doesn't touch you. That's why I structured it the way I did. Lena processed this. You knew. When you agreed to partner with me, you already knew you were under investigation. Yes. So what? I'm your exit strategy? Your last good deed before you go to prison? No. His voice sharpened. You're not a charity case. This partnership makes money. Even if I'm gone, it generates returns. My lawyers can manage the investment side while you run operations. While you're in prison? Yes. Lena laughed, high and slightly hysterical. This is insane. This whole thing is insane. I partnered with someone who's about to be indicted. You partnered with someone who believed in your vision. The indictment is separate. It's not separate. Nothing's separate. She shoved open the car door, needed air. How can you sit there and act like this doesn't change everything? Adrian got out, came around the car. Because it doesn't. The vineyard still needs to succeed. You still need to prove yourself. My legal problems don't change the work. They change everything about our partnership. Do they? Because from where I'm standing, the terms are the same. I provide capital and connections while I can. You build something extraordinary. We both profit. And when you're arrested, you keep building. You keep running the vineyard. You keep proving to everyone who underestimated you that they were wrong. He stepped closer. My conviction doesn't make you less capable. It makes me look like an idiot who didn't do her due diligence. Or it makes you look brave, someone who took a chance when everyone else was running. His hand came up, cupped her jaw. I should have told you sooner. I know that. But I also knew if I told you up front, you might not have taken the deal. You're right. I wouldn't have. And now? Lena wanted to pull away to get in her car and drive back to Rebecca's and figure out how to extricate herself from this mess. But she also knew what walking away meant. Giving up the vineyard, admitting defeat, proving everyone right who said she couldn't do this. Now I'm stuck, she said. Because if I walk away, I lose everything. And if I stay, I'm tied to someone who might be in prison by Christmas. I know, and I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this. No, but commitment might. Adrian's thumb brushed her cheekbone. I meant what I said. This vineyard is clean. It's legally protected. Whatever happens to me, you're safe. I don't care about being safe. I care about building something real. Then build it, with or without me physically present. You don't need me there to make it work. I need your connections. Your money. You'll have both. My arrest doesn't freeze my assets immediately, and my connections don't disappear just because I'm indicted. If anything, some of them will be more helpful. They'll want to prove they're not connected to my problems. Lena pulled back, looked at him in the dim light. You've really thought this through. I've had 18 months to think it through. And you still invested in the vineyard. I still invested in you. His voice was quiet. Because regardless of what happens to me, I want to see what you build, even if I have to watch it from behind bars. The absurdity of it all crashed over her. A month ago, she'd been planning a wedding. Now she was standing on a cliff overlooking Napa Valley, partnered with a man who was likely going to prison, trying to save a failing vineyard with money that came from illegal sources. This is the worst business decision I've ever made, she said. Probably. I should walk away. Probably. I'm not going to. Adrian smiled. I know. He kissed her, and Lena let herself have this moment of bad decisions and worse timing. When they finally pulled apart, she was breathless and furious and completely committed to seeing this disaster through. If you get arrested, I'm visiting you exactly once, she said, to tell you I told you so. Fair enough. They drove back in silence that felt less hostile, more resigned. When Adrian dropped her at Rebecca's, he caught her hand before she could get out. For what it's worth, I think you're going to be extraordinary at this, with or without me. Don't get sentimental. It's weird. He laughed. Noted. Inside, Rebecca was still awake. Well? He's under federal investigation for financial crimes and will probably be indicted within 6 months. Rebecca's mouth fell open. What? Yeah. And you're still doing this? The vineyard? Yeah. Lena, are you insane? Definitely. Lena collapsed on the couch. But I'm also not quitting. The vineyard is legally separate. I'm protected. And I've already burned every other bridge. That's not a reason to keep going. It's the only reason I have left. Rebecca sat beside her. Okay, then we make it work. But you need to cover yourself. Get everything in writing. Make sure you have legal protection if this blows up. Already planning to call Michael Brennan tomorrow. Good. Rebecca grabbed the wine bottle from earlier. Also, you need to fire Derek's family before they find out about Adrian. If they catch wind of this investigation, they'll use it to contest the sale. The sale is final. Legal challenges don't care about final. They care about leverage. Rebecca poured 2 glasses. Strike first. Clean house completely. The next morning, Lena drove back to the vineyard with a list of names and severance packages. Tom met her in the office, already looking grim. Derek's here, he said. What? Showed up an hour ago. Says he's not leaving until he talks to you. Lena found him in the tasting room, pacing like a caged animal. He looked terrible, unshaven, wrinkled shirt, dark circles under his eyes. Finally, he said when she walked in, I've been calling you for days. I've been busy. Too busy to answer your phone? Too busy to explain why you're destroying my family's legacy? It's not your legacy anymore, it's mine. Derek moved closer, anger radiating off him. You think you can just take this? You think you can partner with Adrian Voss and steal everything my family built? Your family built a failing business. I'm saving it. You're destroying it. You're firing people who've worked here for years, gutting traditions, changing everything that made this place matter. His voice cracked. This was supposed to be ours, Lena. We were supposed to run it together. That was before you spent 6 months sleeping with my sister. I made a mistake. You made a choice. Multiple choices for half a year. Lena kept her voice level. And now I'm making mine. You need to leave. This is my family's property. Was. Past tense. Now it's mine. And you're trespassing. Derek stared at her like he was seeing a stranger. What happened to you? You happened to me. You and Claire and every lie you told. Lena pulled out her phone. You have 2 options. Leave now, or I call the sheriff and have you removed. You wouldn't. She started dialing. Derek's hand shot out, grabbed her wrist. Don't touch me. Lena, please, just listen. Tom appeared in the doorway. Problem here? Derek released her immediately. This is family business. Miss Cross is the owner. You're not. That makes this trespassing. Tom's voice was calm but immovable. Time to go. For a moment, Lena thought Derek might actually fight. Might do something stupid that would give her grounds for a restraining order. But instead, he just looked at her with something that might have been heartbreak or might have been hate. You're going to regret this, he said quietly. I already do. Just not the way you think. He left. Lena watched his car disappear down the drive, felt something loosen in her chest. One problem handled. Approximately 40,000 more to go. You okay? Tom asked. No, but I will be. She turned to him. Let's fire everyone who doesn't contribute to profit. Today. I want them gone before the week ends. Tom raised an eyebrow. That's cold. That's business. They spent the afternoon delivering termination notices. Most people took it quietly. They'd known this was coming. A few argued, threatened lawsuits, accused Lena of heartlessness. She listened to all of it with a blank face and repeated the same line. 2-week severance for every year worked, health insurance through the end of the quarter, and letters of recommendation for anyone who wanted them. By evening, the vineyard was down to 8 employees. The place felt empty, haunted by the absence of voices and activity. This is going to get harder before it gets easier, Tom said. I know. Do you? Because those people you just fired, They have friends, family, they're going to talk, and the talk won't be kind. Let them talk. It affects business, affects how people see you. Good. Let them see me as someone who makes hard choices. Let them see me as someone who doesn't play games. Lena looked at the empty tasting room, the silent production floor. We're not here to make friends. We're here to make wine that matters. Tom studied her. Derek really did a number on you, didn't he? Derek made me realize I'd been playing small, trying to be likable, acceptable, safe. She met Tom's eyes. I'm done being safe. Just don't lose yourself in the process. I won't. But as Lena drove back to the city that night, passing vineyard after vineyard lit by sunset, she wondered if Tom was right. If somewhere in the last 3 weeks she'd crossed a line from determined to ruthless. If the person she was becoming was someone she'd even recognize a year from now. Her phone buzzed. A text from Adrian. How did it go? Fired 16 people. Made an enemy of my ex-fiancé. Standard Tuesday. Proud of you. Are you? Completely. You're becoming exactly what I knew you could be. Lena stared at that message, wondered what exactly Adrian thought she could be, wondered if it was something she actually wanted to become. Another text from a blocked number. You're making a mistake partnering with Adrian Voss. Ask him about the Castellano investigation. Lena's blood went cold. She pulled over, read the message 3 times. Who is this? No response. How do you know about Castellano? Still nothing. She called Adrian. He answered on the first ring. What's the Castellano investigation? Silence. Then, where did you hear that name? Someone texted me. Told me to ask you about it. Adrian cursed under his breath. Where are you? Highway 1, about 20 minutes out. Come to my office. Now. He hung up. Lena sat in her parked car, watching traffic blur past, and felt the world tilting sideways again. Just when she thought she understood the game, someone changed the rules. She put the car in drive and headed for the city, toward answers she wasn't sure she wanted but knew she needed. Whatever the Castellano investigation was, it was going to change everything. Again, Adrian's office building was mostly dark when Lena arrived. Just a few scattered windows glowing on the upper floors where workaholics and lawyers burned midnight oil. Security let her through without questions. Apparently, Adrian had already cleared her. He was waiting in his office, jacket off, tie loosened, looking like he'd been there for hours. A bottle of whiskey sat on his desk, 2 glasses already poured. Drink first, he said when she walked in. Then we talk. Lena took the glass but didn't drink. Who's texting me? And what's the Castellano investigation? Adrian drained his glass in one swallow. Robert Castellano, the hotel mogul you met at the auction, his son was arrested 6 months ago. Money laundering through the family's hotel chain. The FBI thinks I was his partner. Were you? I did business with them. Legitimate business, mostly. But Marcus Castellano, the son, he was moving money for some people who weren't legitimate, and he used my connections to do it. Did you know? I suspected. I didn't ask questions. Adrian refilled his glass. That's the problem. I didn't ask questions when I should have. Just took the fees and looked the other way. Lena finally drank. The whiskey burned. So you're implicated in his crimes. The FBI thinks so. My lawyers think they can separate my legitimate dealings from Marcus's illegal ones, but it's complicated. Very complicated. And Robert? The father? Claims he knew nothing. The FBI doesn't believe him, but they can't prove otherwise. Adrian leaned against his desk. That's why I was surprised when Robert expressed interest in partnering on the hotel concept. Either he's genuinely separating business from personal, or he's testing me to see what I know. Jesus, Lena set down her glass. Is there anyone you do business with who isn't under investigation? You. That's not funny. It wasn't meant to be. Adrian looked at her directly. This is my world, Lena. This is what I've built. It's profitable, and it's dangerous, and it's probably going to destroy me. But it doesn't have to destroy you. How can you say that? We're partners. When the FBI comes after you, they'll look at every deal you've made, including ours. The vineyard is clean. I've made sure of that. Clean how? You structured the deal. You provided the capital. If that capital came from illegal sources, It didn't. His voice was firm. The money I invested in your vineyard came from completely legitimate holdings, real estate trusts, public investments, documented sources. My lawyers made sure of it. Why? Because I knew this was coming. I knew eventually the FBI would move, and I wanted to make sure at least one thing I cared about wouldn't burn when they did. He moved closer. You're not collateral damage, Lena. You're the exit strategy that actually matters. Lena felt something crack in her chest. Don't do that. Do what? Make this sound noble, like you're protecting me out of some grand gesture. You invested in the vineyard because it made financial sense. I invested in the vineyard because you made me believe in something again. Adrian's hand came up, cupped her face. Everything else in my life is transactions and risk management and legal exposure. You're the one thing that feels real. Adrian, I know the timing is terrible. I know I should have told you everything up front, but I also know that if I go to prison tomorrow, I want you to keep building. I want you to prove everyone wrong. I want you to take that failing vineyard and turn it into something legendary. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. Can you do that? Even if I'm not there to see it? Lena wanted to say no, wanted to walk away from all of this, the vineyard, the partnership, the man who was about to drag her into a federal investigation. But she also knew what walking away meant. It meant Derek won. It meant Claire won. It meant everyone who'd ever underestimated her was right. Yes, she said, I can do that. Adrian kissed her, and this time Lena didn't pull back. Didn't think about consequences or complications or the FBI. Just let herself have this moment with a man who was probably going to prison and a future that was completely uncertain. When they finally broke apart, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. Stay tonight, he said quietly. That's a bad idea. Most of my ideas are bad ideas hasn't stopped me yet. Lena laughed despite herself. One night, but tomorrow we go back to business. Deal. They didn't make it to the bedroom, just the couch in his office, expensive leather and city lights through floor-to-ceiling windows. Adrian was careful with her, almost tender, like he was trying to memorize something he knew wouldn't last. Afterward, Lena lay against his chest, listening to his heartbeat, watching dawn creep across the skyline. What happens when they arrest you? She asked quietly. I turn myself in. Cooperate as much as my lawyers allow. Hope for a plea deal that keeps the sentence under 10 years. 10 years? Could be worse, could be 20. That's not comforting. It's not meant to be. It's just reality. His hand moved through her hair. But you'll be fine. The vineyard will be fine. Michael Brennan will manage my investment interests, and you'll run operations. In 10 years, I'll get out, and you'll have built an empire. You're very confident about that. I'm confident about you. Lena closed her eyes. I wish we'd met differently. In a different life where you weren't facing federal charges and I wasn't trying to weaponize a vineyard against my ex-fiancé. In a different life, you wouldn't have asked me to kiss you, and I wouldn't have said yes. Adrian shifted to look at her. This disaster is what made us possible. That's depressing. That's honest. They stayed like that until the sun was fully up and Adrian's phone started buzzing with meeting notifications. Reality reasserting itself. Lena dressed, felt the weight of everything settle back onto her shoulders. I need to get back to Napa, she said. Harvest planning starts this week. I'll have the car. I'll drive myself. I need the time to think. Adrian walked her to the elevator. Before the doors closed, he caught her hand. Lena, whatever happens, whatever you hear about me in the news or read in the papers, remember that the vineyard is yours, not mine, yours. Don't let anyone take that from you. The doors closed before she could respond. The drive back to Napa gave Lena 3 hours to spiral. She called Rebecca, put her on speaker, and talked through every terrible possibility. What if the FBI seizes the vineyard as part of Adrian's assets? Michael Brennan said it's protected. Trust the lawyer. What if Derek finds out about the investigation and uses it to challenge the sale? The sale is final. He has no legal standing. What if customers won't buy wine from a vineyard associated with a federal criminal? Then you rebrand. You market it as a phoenix rising from ashes. People love redemption stories. Rebecca, this isn't a redemption story. This is a disaster. It's both. And you've never walked away from a disaster before. Why start now? Because this time, the disaster felt personal. This time, it wasn't just about wine or business or proving herself. It was about Adrian, a man she barely knew but somehow couldn't walk away from. She didn't say that to Rebecca, just thanked her and hung up and kept driving. Tom was waiting when she arrived at the vineyard. He had news that somehow made everything worse. "The irrigation system is shot," he said without preamble. "I mean, completely gone. We can limp through to harvest, but if we don't replace it before spring planting, we're looking at crop failure." "How much?" 200,000, maybe more. Lena did the math in her head. They had operational budget for the year, but a $200,000 emergency expense would gut their reserves. "Can we patch it?" "We've been patching it for 3 years. There's nothing left to patch. Then we replace it." She pulled out her phone, started making notes. "Get me 3 quotes by Friday. We'll go with whoever can start immediately." "Lena, that's a quarter of your annual budget." "I know what it is. Get the quotes." Tom left shaking his head. Lena stood in the empty office, surrounded by Derek's family photos still on the walls, and wanted to scream. Instead, she called Michael Brennan. "I need to access more capital," she said when he answered. "For what?" "Emergency infrastructure repair, 200,000, possibly more." Silence. Then, "That's outside your operational budget. You'd need Adrian's approval for disbursement." "So get his approval." "Lena, Adrian's in meetings with federal prosecutors all day. I can't just interrupt that for irrigation." "Then what am I supposed to do? Let the vineyard fail because the timing is inconvenient?" "I'm saying you need to find another solution. Cut costs elsewhere. Delay the expense until next quarter." "There's no next quarter if we can't water the vines." Brennan sighed. "I'll see what I can do. But you need to understand, Adrian's priorities right now are avoiding prison. Everything else is secondary." He hung up. Lena threw her phone across the room. It hit the wall, cracked, kept working. She spent the rest of the day cutting every possible expense. Canceled the marketing consultant, pushed back the tasting room renovation, cut her own salary to minimum wage. By the time she finished, she'd freed up $80,000. Still $120,000 short. That night, she sat in the vineyard's small office, surrounded by invoices and debt statements, and considered her options. She could take out a personal loan, except her credit was maxed from the move and the lawyer fees. She could ask Rebecca, except Rebecca had maybe $10,000 in savings. She could go to a bank, except no bank would loan money to a failing vineyard run by someone with no management experience. Or she could call Derek. The thought made her physically ill. But Derek's family still had money. Not vineyard money. That was gone. But personal money. Investments, properties, trust funds. She picked up her cracked phone, stared at his number. Before she could talk herself out of it, she dialed. He answered on the first ring. "Lena? I need a loan." Silence. Then incredulous laughter. "You're kidding. 120,000. I'll pay you back with interest within a year." "You stole my family's vineyard, and now you want me to loan you money to save it?" "I didn't steal anything. I bought it, legally." "This is unbelievable. You have some nerve." "Derek, please." The word tasted like acid. "The irrigation system is failing. If I don't replace it, the whole operation goes under. That includes the jobs of the 8 people I kept on staff." "Not my problem. It's Tom Ferraro's problem. It's Maria in accounting. It's—" "I don't care." His voice went cold. "You made your choice. You chose Adrian Voss over me. You chose revenge over partnership. Now you get to live with that. This isn't about us. Everything is about us. You bought that vineyard to hurt me. Now it's hurting you instead, and I'm supposed to save you?" He laughed again. "No, figure it out yourself." He hung up. Lena sat in the dark office, phone in her hand, and felt the walls closing in. A text came through. "Claire. Derek told me you called. I have money saved. Not much, but I can help." Lena stared at the message. Her sister, the woman who'd slept with her fiancé for 6 months, offering help. Why? "Because you're my sister, and because I'm sorry." "Your sorry doesn't fix anything." "I know, but maybe my money can help fix the vineyard." Lena wanted to refuse, wanted to delete the message and block the number and never speak to Claire again. But she also needed $120,000, and pride wasn't going to water vines. "How much can you loan me?" 40,000. "It's everything I have. I'll pay you back." with interest. I don't want interest. I just want you to not hate me. I can't promise that. A long pause. Then, I know. The money transferred the next day. Lena still needed $80,000. She called everyone she knew, old colleagues, industry contacts, former clients. Most said no. A few said maybe. None said yes. On Thursday, Margaret Chen called. I heard you're having cash flow problems. Word traveled fast in the wine world. Who told you that? Does it matter? Look, I have a proposal. I'm launching a private label, high-end, limited production. I need a vineyard partner who can deliver quality without the corporate bureaucracy. Interested? How much are you offering? $80,000 upfront for exclusive rights to 20% of your annual Cabernet production. 3-year contract. It was exactly what Lena needed. But it also meant locking in a significant portion of their output before she'd even produced a bottle. I need to think about it. You have until tomorrow. After that, I'm talking to other vineyards. Margaret hung up. Lena called Tom. If we commit 20% of the cab production to a private label, can we still meet our own bottling targets? Depends on the harvest. If it's strong, yes. If it's weak, we'll be cutting it close. What are the odds of a strong harvest? With the current state of the vines and the irrigation issues, 50-50. So we're gambling. We're always gambling. That's agriculture. Lena made the call that night, told Margaret yes, signed the contract the next morning. The $80,000 hit her account by noon. Between Claire's $40,000 and Margaret's $80,000, Lena had exactly what she needed. She approved the irrigation replacement that afternoon. You cut that close, Tom said when she told him. Story of my life right now. You know this means we're locked in. If the harvest is weak and we can't deliver to Margaret, we're in breach. She'll sue. Then we make sure the harvest isn't weak. That's not how farming works. It's how this farm is going to work. Lena looked at the vineyard rows, the new irrigation equipment being delivered. We don't get to fail. Too many people are counting on it. The installation took 2 weeks. Lena spent those weeks learning everything she could about vineyard management, soil composition, water tables, pest control, weather patterns. She hired a consultant who'd worked with some of the best vineyards in Napa, paid him hourly because she couldn't afford a retainer. Your Cabernet vines are stressed, he told her after a full day of assessment. Years of poor management. They're producing, but not at optimal levels. Can we fix it? Not this season. Maybe not next season. You're looking at 3 years minimum to bring them back to full health. I don't have 3 years. Then you need to be realistic about what you can achieve in the short term. He showed her his notes. Focus on the western section. Those vines are healthiest. Baby them, give them everything they need, and you might get a decent harvest. The rest? He shrugged. Make table wine. Don't try to sell it as premium. It wasn't what Lena wanted to hear, but it was honest. She implemented his recommendations, focused all resources on the western section, cut back the weaker vines, redirected water and nutrients to the strong ones. It felt like triage, saving what could be saved and accepting losses on the rest. Adrian called once during those 2 weeks. Brief, distracted. How's it going? Expensive and difficult. You? About the same. The prosecutors want a meeting next week. Might be charging decision. Lena's stomach dropped. Already? They've been building this case for over a year. They're ready. He paused. I might not be able to help much after that. If they arrest me, my assets get complicated. I know. You'll be okay? I have to be. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have. Lena watched Tom directing the irrigation crew. Are you scared? Terrified, but also relieved. At least it'll be over. Prison isn't over. It's just different. I know. His voice softened. I'm sorry I dragged you into this. You didn't drag me. I walked in with my eyes open. Your eyes weren't that open. Open enough. She heard voices in the background on his end. You need to go. Yeah, I'll call you after the meeting, assuming I still can. He hung up before she could respond. The next week crawled by. Lena threw herself into the vineyard, worked 18-hour days, fell into bed exhausted, and woke up thinking about tasks she'd forgotten. Rebecca drove up twice, forced her to eat real meals, reminded her that she was human and needed to act like it. You're going to burn out before harvest, Rebecca warned. I'll rest after harvest. That's 4 months away. Then I'll rest in 4 months. Lena, I'm fine. You're not fine. You're running on fumes and stubbornness. Rebecca grabbed her shoulders. What happens when Adrian gets arrested? When the news breaks and everyone knows you're partnered with a federal criminal? You need to be strong for that. And right now you're barely holding it together. I'm holding it together fine. You're falling apart. I can see it. Rebecca's voice gentled. Please, take 1 day off. Just one. Sleep in, eat something that isn't coffee. Remember what it feels like to be a person instead of a machine. Lena wanted to argue, wanted to explain that stopping meant thinking, and thinking meant acknowledging how completely terrifying this all was. But she also knew Rebecca was right. 1 day, she agreed. Sunday. I'm holding you to that. Sunday came. Lena slept until noon, woke up disoriented. Rebecca had driven up again, let herself in with the spare key Tom had given her, and made pancakes. You're a terrible cook, Lena said, pushing around something that was supposed to be food. I'm an excellent friend. Eat it anyway. They spent the day not talking about vineyards or federal investigations or ex-fiancés, just watched bad movies and drank wine that wasn't from Napa, and remembered what it felt like to be 28 instead of whatever age Lena felt like now. Monday morning, the news broke. Adrian Voss had been arrested. Federal charges: money laundering, wire fraud, racketeering. The FBI had executed the warrant at 6 a.m. at his home. He'd been processed, arraigned, released on $5 million bail. Lena's phone started ringing at 7 a.m. Reporters, industry contacts, people she barely knew wanting comments or details or confirmation that she was his partner. She ignored all of it and drove to the city. The courthouse was a circus. News cameras, protesters, lawyers in expensive suits. Lena pushed through the crowd, found Michael Brennan on the steps. Where is he? Released an hour ago. He's at his office. Is he okay? Define okay. Brennan looked exhausted. He's free pending trial. That's the best we could hope for. What's the timeline? Trial starts in 6 months, maybe sooner if the prosecutors push. And the vineyard? Legally protected. I've already filed documentation showing the investment came from clean sources. The FBI might audit it, but they won't seize it. Might audit? Will audit, probably within the month. Be prepared for that. Lena drove to Adrian's office. He was there, tie loose, looking like he hadn't slept in days. You came, he said when she walked in. Of course I came. Most people wouldn't. Association with me right now is toxic. Good thing I'm not most people. Lena sat across from him. How bad is it? Bad. The prosecutors have recordings, financial documents, witness testimony. My lawyers think we can fight some of it, but not all of it. What are they offering for a plea? 12 years. Down from 20 if I cooperate and provide information on the Castellano operation. 12 years. Lena felt the number like a weight. Are you going to take it? I don't know yet. Cooperating means testifying against people who won't forget that. Prison's dangerous enough without making enemies before I get there. But 12 years instead of 20 is still 12 years. Adrian leaned back. I'm 42. I'll be 54 when I get out. That's my entire 40s gone. The best years, supposedly. The best years are the ones you make matter. Lena reached across the desk, took his hand. 12 is better than 20. Take the deal. Even if it means testifying against Robert Castellano, the man you want to partner with on the hotel? Lena had forgotten about Robert, about the hotel concept, about all the plans they'd built on foundations that were crumbling. Robert can find another partner. You can't find another decade of your life. Adrian smiled slightly. When did you get so pragmatic? About 3 weeks ago, when I realized sentiment doesn't pay invoices. He pulled her closer, kissed her forehead. I'm going to miss you. You're not gone yet, but I will be. And when I am, I need you to promise me something. What? Don't visit, don't write, don't wait for me. His voice was firm. Build your empire. Live your life. Forget this ever happened. Adrian, I mean it. I don't want you wasting years on someone in prison. You're 28. You have time to find someone who isn't a disaster. Maybe I don't want someone who isn't a disaster. Then you're as crazy as I am. He kissed her properly this time. But I love that about you. The word hung in the air. Love. Neither of them had said it before. Don't say that now, Lena whispered. Not when you're about to leave. When else am I supposed to say it? She didn't have an answer. Adrian's lawyer called later that day. The prosecutors had sweetened the deal, 10 years with possibility of parole in 7, if he cooperated fully and provided substantial testimony. He took it. The news broke the next morning. Adrian Voss, once one of California's most successful investors, had agreed to plead guilty to multiple federal charges in exchange for a reduced sentence. Trial was set for formality, really just a sentencing hearing. He'd begin serving his time within 60 days. 60 days. 2 months. Then he'd be gone. Lena threw herself back into the vineyard with renewed desperation. If Adrian was going to prison, she needed to make sure his investment meant something, needed to prove that his belief in her wasn't misplaced. The vines responded to the new irrigation, slowly but measurably. Leaves greened up, fruit set looked promising. Tom was cautiously optimistic. We might actually pull this off, he said one afternoon, walking the western section with Lena. If the weather holds and we don't get any surprises, we could have a decent harvest. Decent? Better than decent. Maybe even good. It was the first piece of genuinely positive news Lena had heard in weeks. That night, she drove to the city. Adrian had asked her not to visit, but she went anyway, found him in his apartment, half-packed boxes everywhere, artwork being cataloged for storage. You're not supposed to be here, he said when he opened the door. I know. I told you to stay away. You tell me a lot of things. I don't always listen. She walked past him into the apartment. I wanted to see you, while I still can. Adrian closed the door. This isn't going to make it easier. I don't care about easier. I care about real. They spent that night together. Didn't talk about the future or the vineyard or the prison sentence looming, just existed in the present, in the apartment with the half-packed boxes, in the space between what was and what would be. In the morning, Lena left while Adrian was still sleeping. Didn't say goodbye, just drove back to Napa and got to work. The weeks blurred. Harvest preparation consumed everything. Lena hired temporary workers, scheduled equipment maintenance, coordinated with the crush facility. Margaret Chen sent her team to inspect the Cabernet vines, confirmed they'd be taking the full 20%. This is good fruit, Margaret's head winemaker said. Better than I expected given the vineyard's history. Wait until you taste the wine. Confident. Realistic. Lena walked him through the rows. We focused everything on quality over quantity. That's the only way to compete. Adrian's sentencing was scheduled for mid-August. Lena didn't attend. Couldn't bear to watch him stand before a judge and accept responsibility for crimes that would cost him a decade. But she watched the news coverage that night. Saw him in a suit, handcuffed, being led away. Saw the reporter shouting questions he didn't answer. Saw the moment when he looked directly at the camera, at her, she imagined, before disappearing into a transport vehicle. 10 years? 7 with good behavior. Lena turned off the television and cried for the first time since this entire disaster started. Let herself break down completely, sobbing into couch cushions in the empty farmhouse, grieving everything that might have been if circumstances had been different. Then she washed her face, pulled herself together, and went back to work. The vineyard didn't care about heartbreak. The vines didn't care about federal prison. The harvest was coming whether she was ready or not, so she got ready. Harvest came in September like a reckoning. The grapes were ready 2 weeks earlier than projected. Tom called it a gift from the weather gods. Lena called it terrifying. They had crews scheduled for late September, equipment reserved for October. Now they were scrambling to move everything up, calling in favors, paying premiums for last-minute labor. This is going to cost us, Tom warned as they stood in the pre-dawn darkness, watching headlights of workers' trucks wind up the drive. Everything costs us. Lena had barely slept in 3 days. At least this time, we're paying for success instead of failure. The first day of harvest was chaos. Half the temporary crew didn't show up. The sorting equipment jammed twice. One of the bins split open, dumping 200 pounds of Cabernet onto the ground. Lena watched $500 worth of grapes spill into the dirt and wanted to scream. Instead, she grabbed gloves and started picking alongside the crew. You don't have to do this, Tom said. Yes, I do. Lena's hands were already cramping, her back already aching. If I'm asking them to work 16-hour days, I can at least work alongside them. Word spread. By the second day, the crew that had shown up was working harder. By the third day, 2 of the no-shows came back, apologetic and ready. By the end of the first week, they'd harvested the entire western section, the premium Cabernet that would become their flagship wine. Margaret Chen's team arrived to collect their 20%. Her head winemaker walked the vineyard, inspected the fruit, took samples. This is exceptional, he said, surprise clear in his voice. How did you turn this around so fast? Desperation and stubbornness. Lena was covered in grape juice and exhaustion. Also really good irrigation. He laughed. I'm serious. These are some of the best cab grapes I've seen this season. What's your secret? Focus. We cut everything that wasn't essential and poured all our resources into what mattered. She looked at the vineyard rows, now partially bare. Sometimes you have to burn down what isn't working to make room for what will. Margaret's team loaded their share and left with promises to place a larger order next year. Lena watched the trucks disappear and felt something loosen in her chest. They'd delivered. Actually delivered. Against every odd and obstacle, they'd produced wine worth buying. The rest of harvest took 3 more weeks. The Merlot was decent, but not spectacular. They'd bottle it as mid-tier. The experimental Syrah Tom had planted was too young to harvest. But the Cabernet, the Western Section Cabernet, was going to be something special. We need to name it, Tom said one evening as they stood in the fermenting room, watching their future bubble in steel tanks. Lena had been thinking about this for weeks. Every wine needed a story, and their story was complicated. Betrayal, redemption, resurrection. A vineyard saved from ruin by a woman with nothing to lose and a criminal who believed in her anyway. Phoenix Reserve, she said finally. Tom considered it. Little on the nose, isn't it? Everything about this vineyard is on the nose. Might as well own it. They bottled the first vintage in December. Lena designed the labels herself. Simple, elegant, a phoenix rising in metallic gold against black. No mention of the Hale name. No reference to the family that had nearly destroyed this place. Just the vineyard's location and the vintage year and a single word in script. Resurrection. Rebecca drove up for the bottling party. Just Lena, Tom, and the 8 remaining employees drinking the table wine they'd made from the weaker vines and toasting to survival. To making it through the first year, Tom raised his glass. To making it through the first day, Maria from accounting corrected. I didn't think we'd last past that first disaster with the bins. Everyone laughed. It felt good to laugh. Felt like maybe they were actually going to make this work. After everyone left, Rebecca and Lena sat on the farmhouse porch, watching stars appear over the vineyard. You did it, Rebecca said quietly. Not yet. We won't know if it worked until people actually buy the wine. They'll buy it. I've tasted it. It's incredible. It's good. Not incredible. Lena, stop. Rebecca turned to look at her. You turned a failing vineyard into a functioning business in less than a year. You survived a federal investigation, a public scandal, and your partner going to prison. You fired 16 people, took on massive debt, and somehow still produced wine that Margaret Chen wants to put on her tables. That's not good. That's exceptional. Lena wanted to believe her, wanted to feel proud instead of terrified, but pride felt dangerous. Like celebrating before the harvest was sold, before the debts were paid, before she could prove this wasn't just luck and adrenaline. Ask me again in 6 months, she said. If we're still standing then, maybe I'll celebrate. The Phoenix Reserve launched in February at a tasting event Lena could barely afford. She'd rented a gallery space in San Francisco, invited every buyer and sommelier and critic she could think of. Spent the week before the event barely sleeping, convinced no one would show up. 200 people came. They came because they were curious. Because Adrian Voss's scandal had made headlines and they wanted to see what his disgraced partner had built. Because the wine industry loved a good story, and Lena's story was better than fiction. She worked the room in a dress that cost too much but looked like confidence. Poured wine, told stories, made people believe this vineyard was worth their money and attention. Margaret Chen arrived fashionably late, Isabel Moreau on her arm. I'm impressed, Isabel said after tasting the Phoenix Reserve. This is actually good. Not good for a first vintage, just good. High praise from you. I don't give praise I don't mean. Isabel set down her glass. I want this on my list. How many cases can you deliver? For La Colline, we'd need to discuss allocation, all of them. I want exclusive rights to the Phoenix Reserve for my restaurants. Lena's brain stuttered. All of them? We produce 2,000 cases. I know, I want them all. Isabel pulled out her phone, started typing. I'll pay you $200 per bottle, wholesale. That's $400,000 for your first vintage. The number hit like vertigo. $400,000. Enough to pay back Claire and Margaret. Enough to fund next year's operations. Enough to prove this wasn't just surviving, it was succeeding. I need to think about it, Lena said, because saying yes immediately felt too easy. You have 24 hours. After that, I'm talking to other vineyards. Isabel smiled. But you already know what you're going to say. She walked away, leaving Lena standing in the middle of her launch party, holding a glass of wine she'd made and a future she hadn't quite believed was possible. Rebecca appeared at her elbow. Did that just happen? I think so. Lena, that's $400,000. I know. You did it. You actually did it. Lena looked around the gallery, at the people drinking her wine, at the critics taking notes, at Tom in the corner, looking proud and exhausted, at the life she'd built from ruins and rage and a kiss that changed everything. Yeah, she said slowly. I think I did. She called Isabel the next morning, accepted the deal, signed the contract that afternoon. The money hit her account 48 hours later. Lena stared at the balance, watched the numbers that meant security and stability and the ability to actually sleep at night. Then she started writing checks. Claire's $40,000 came back with interest, 10%, compounded. Lena sent it with a note. Thank you for believing in me when you had no reason to. We're even now. Claire's response came 3 days later. We'll never be even, but maybe someday we can be sisters again. Lena didn't respond, didn't know how to respond. The anger had faded somewhere between harvest and bottling, replaced by something more complicated. Not forgiveness, exactly. Just acceptance that people were messy and imperfect, and sometimes the worst betrayals came from the people you loved most. Margaret's $80,000 went back with interest too. Margaret sent a bottle of champagne and a note. Told you vision was revolutionary. Looking forward to next vintage. The remaining money went into operations, new equipment, soil amendments, staff bonuses. Lena gave Tom a raise he'd earned twice over, gave Maria a promotion, invested in the experimental Syrah section because Adrian had been right, differentiation mattered. By spring, the Phoenix Reserve had sold out completely. Isabel was calling weekly, asking about next year's allocation. Other restaurants were inquiring. Wine Spectator ran a feature. From ruins to recognition, how Lena Cross saved a dying vineyard. The article was mostly flattering. It mentioned Adrian only in passing, initial investor, currently incarcerated, and focused instead on Lena's vision and execution. Derek wasn't mentioned at all, which felt like its own kind of victory. Derek called her after the article published. I read the piece in Wine Spectator, he said when she answered. Did you? You didn't mention my family once, like we never existed. You don't exist. Not in this vineyard story. Lena was walking the vines, checking bud break. That's kind of the point. We built that place. 3 generations. Built it and nearly destroyed it. I saved it. There's a difference. She stopped walking. Why are you calling, Derek? Silence. Then quieter. I wanted to say congratulations. You proved everyone wrong, including me. I don't need your validation. I know, but you have it anyway. A pause. Claire says you're doing well, that you paid her back. I pay my debts. She misses you. That's her problem. Lena. We're done, Derek. We've been done. The only reason we're talking now is because you called me. Don't do it again. She hung up. It should have felt good. Should have felt like closure. Instead, it just felt empty. Like winning a game nobody else was playing anymore. That night, Lena did something she'd been avoiding for 8 months. She wrote a letter to Adrian. She'd promised not to. Promised to move on, to build her life without waiting for someone in prison. But the vineyard was succeeding, and he deserved to know. Deserved to understand that his investment, his belief in her, had meant something. The letter took 3 drafts. She kept it simple. Just the facts, the harvest, the sales, the Isabel Moreau deal, the Wine Spectator feature. Proof that Phoenix Reserve was real and thriving, and everything he'd believed it could be. At the end, she added, "You told me not to write. I'm writing anyway because you should know you were right about me, about what I could build. Thank you for seeing it when I couldn't." She didn't sign it with love, didn't make promises about waiting or visiting, just signed her name and mailed it before she could talk herself out of it. The response came 6 weeks later. A single page in handwriting she barely recognized as Adrian's, smaller, more careful, like he'd written it with limited time and resources. Lena, your letter arrived the same day I finished my first round of testimony against the Castellanos. Robert won't speak to me anymore. Most of my former associates won't. But reading about the Phoenix Reserve made me remember why I took the plea deal. Some things are worth protecting, even if it costs everything else. I'm not going to tell you to stop writing. I'm selfish enough to want the connection, but I'm going to tell you to live your life. Date someone. Build relationships that aren't complicated by federal prison. Don't waste your 20s on someone who won't be free until you're pushing 40. Also, I'm proud of you. Probably shouldn't say that since it's patronizing and you don't need my approval. But I am. You took a disaster and turned it into triumph. That's rare. Keep building. Lena read the letter 3 times. Then she folded it carefully and put it in her desk drawer, next to the first bottle of Phoenix Reserve she'd kept for herself. She didn't write back immediately. Wanted to. But something about his words, "live your life," felt like permission she needed to actually take. So she tried. She went on dates. Awkward ones, mostly. Men who didn't understand why she cared so much about terroir. Men who thought running a vineyard was romantic instead of relentless. Men who were intimidated by her success, or dismissive of her age, or just fundamentally wrong in ways she couldn't articulate. After the 5th bad date, Rebecca intervened. "You need to stop comparing everyone to Adrian. I'm not comparing us. You absolutely are, and it's not fair to them or to you." Rebecca poured them both wine, Phoenix Reserve, because she was shameless about supporting her friend. "Adrian's in prison. You're not. You deserve to find someone who's actually available." "I know." "Do you?" "Because you're acting like you're married to a man you barely dated. It's not about Adrian. It's about..." Lena struggled to find words. "Everyone I meet feels small. Their problems feel small. Their ambitions feel small. And I know that's unfair and judgmental, but I can't help it. You're not looking for small. You're looking for someone who matches your intensity. That's not wrong. It's just rare." Rebecca topped off both glasses. "Give it time. The right person will show up when you're not looking." The right person didn't show up. But the vineyard kept growing. Year 2 was easier than year 1. The vines were healthier, the systems were established, the reputation was building. Lena expanded production, added a small tasting room in the renovated farmhouse, hired 2 more staff members. The Syrah harvest came in exceptional. Lena bottled it as a limited release, 500 cases called Second Act. It sold out in 3 weeks. By year 3, Phoenix Reserve was profitable enough that Lena could pay herself an actual salary. She moved out of Rebecca's apartment and into a small house near the vineyard, bought furniture that wasn't borrowed, started building a life that looked sustainable instead of desperate. The wine industry stopped seeing her as a curiosity and started seeing her as competition. Other young vintners reached out, asked for advice, wanted to know how she'd turned things around so quickly. Lena gave talks at industry conferences, judged competitions, became the success story everyone pointed to when they talked about innovation and resilience. She visited Adrian once, 3 years into his sentence. The prison was exactly as depressing as she'd imagined. Gray walls, fluorescent lights, the smell of industrial cleaning products, and resignation. Adrian looked older, harder around the edges, thinner, with gray she didn't remember at his temples. "You came," he said, when they sat down across from each other, separated by a table and rules about physical contact. "You sound surprised." "I told you not to." "You tell me a lot of things. I don't always listen." Lena studied him. How are you holding up? I'm alive. That's about the best I can say. He tried to smile. You look good. Successful. The vineyard's doing well, better than well. She told him about the expansion, the new releases, the hotel concept she was finally moving forward with, partnered with a different investor since Robert Castellano wanted nothing to do with her after Adrian's testimony. You did it without me, Adrian said quietly. I did it because of you. There's a difference. Lena wanted to reach across the table, take his hand. Couldn't. You gave me the opportunity. I just didn't waste it. Most people would have. I'm not most people. No, you're really not. Adrian looked at her for a long moment. I need to tell you something. Okay. I'm getting out early, next year. The testimony against the Castellanos got me additional time off for cooperation, plus good behavior. He smiled slightly. Turns out prison's easier when you have something to look forward to. Lena's heart jumped. Next year? You'll be out next year? October, probably. Maybe sooner. He leaned forward. I'm telling you this because I need to know. When I get out, do we still have a partnership, or did you buy me out while I was inside? I could have. Michael Brennan offered to structure it that way, said it would be cleaner. But you didn't. No, I didn't. Lena met his eyes. You took a risk on me when nobody else would. I'm not forgetting that just because the timing got complicated. The timing didn't get complicated. I committed federal crimes and went to prison. Okay, very complicated. She almost laughed. But the partnership was always 51, 49. I'm not changing that because you're not physically present. Adrian was quiet for a moment. I don't deserve that. Probably not. But you're getting it anyway. The guard called time. Adrian stood, looked like he wanted to say something else. Thank you, he said finally. For all of it. For building something worth coming back to. Lena left the prison with her chest tight and her mind racing. One more year, then Adrian would be out and the partnership would shift from theoretical to actual again. She had 12 months to prepare for that, to figure out what it meant to work alongside someone she'd built an empire without, to decide if the connection they'd had before prison was still there or if 4 years had erased it completely. She threw herself into work, always her solution to complicated feelings. The hotel project broke ground that summer. 20 boutique rooms, a farm-to-table restaurant, an expanded tasting room with vineyard views. Lena worked with architects and designers and contractors, made 10,000 decisions about tile and lighting and furniture. You're building a resort, Rebecca observed during one of her visits. I'm building an experience. There's a difference. Is there? Yes. A resort is about escape. This is about immersion. People come here to understand wine, to see where it comes from, to connect with something real. Lena walked Rebecca through the construction site. That's what Adrian understood from the beginning, that wine isn't just a product, it's a story. The hotel opened in September, 1 month before Adrian's scheduled release. The launch party was massive. Critics, buyers, investors, everyone who'd supported the vineyard over the last 4 years. Isabelle Moreau flew in from France where she'd been consulting. Margaret Chen brought her entire team. Derek showed up uninvited. Lena saw him standing at the edge of the crowd, watching her give a speech about vision and persistence and turning disasters into opportunities. He looked the same, but diminished somehow, like he'd been copied at 90% scale. After the speeches, he approached her. Impressive, he said, gesturing at the hotel, the vineyard, the people drinking wine that bore her vision. You really did it. Was there ever a question? For me? Yes. I didn't think you had it in you. He shoved his hands in his pockets. I was wrong. Yes, you were. Lena didn't offer him a drink, didn't invite him to stay. Why are you here, Derek? I wanted to see it. What you built from what my family destroyed. He looked around. It's better than it ever was when we ran it. Better than it could have been if we'd stayed. I know. That's not easy to admit. Then why admit it? Derek was quiet for a moment. Because Claire's getting married next month. She wanted me to invite you to the wedding. The words landed like a foreign language. Claire, getting married. To someone who wasn't Derek, Lena assumed, though she didn't actually know. Why would she want me there? Because you're her sister, because she misses you, because she's been sober for 2 years and part of her program is making amends. Derek pulled out an invitation. She wanted to ask you herself, but she was afraid you'd say no. I will say no. I figured. He set the invitation on a nearby table anyway, but she wanted you to have the choice. He left without saying goodbye. Lena picked up the invitation, expensive cardstock, elegant calligraphy, Claire's name next to someone called James Rothstein. The wedding was in Napa, at a small vineyard Lena had never heard of. She almost threw it away. Almost. But something made her keep it. Rebecca found her an hour later, staring at the invitation. Are you going? No. Lena, she slept with my fiancé for 6 months. I don't care if she's sober or making amends or getting married. I don't owe her forgiveness. You don't owe her anything, Rebecca agreed, but maybe you owe yourself closure. I have closure. I built an entire vineyard empire. That's closure. That's success. It's not the same thing. Rebecca sat beside her. Look, I'm not saying you have to go. I'm saying consider it. Consider whether holding on to anger is actually serving you or just keeping you stuck. Lena wanted to argue, wanted to explain that some betrayals didn't deserve forgiveness, but she also knew Rebecca was right. The anger had faded years ago, replaced by indifference. And indifference didn't require holding grudges. She RSVP'd yes. 2 days later, told herself she'd go for an hour, make an appearance, leave early. The wedding was small and surprisingly tasteful. Claire looked happy, genuinely happy in a way Lena didn't remember seeing before. Her husband James seemed kind, steady, the type of person who'd help Claire stay sober and focused. Claire saw Lena during the cocktail hour, crossed the venue immediately, eyes bright with something that might have been tears. You came. I came. I didn't think you would. Derek said you'd probably throw the invitation away. I almost did. Lena accepted a glass of champagne from a passing waiter. Congratulations. James seems nice. He is. Claire's voice caught. He's nothing like Derek. Nothing like the person I was when I made those choices. Good. They stood in awkward silence. Then Claire said, I'm sorry. I know I've said it before, but I mean it. What I did was unforgivable. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to know I'm genuinely sorry. Lena looked at her sister, at the woman who'd betrayed her and somehow also saved her, because without that betrayal, Lena would never have asked Adrian to kiss her, would never have burned down her safe life and built something extraordinary from the ashes. I forgive you, Lena said. Claire's eyes went wide. You, what? I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, because I'm tired of carrying it around. Lena smiled slightly. You did me a favor, actually. Showed me who Derek really was before I married him. Forced me to build a life that's actually mine instead of someone else's version of what I should want. I don't know what to say. Say thank you and move on. Build a good life with James. Be happy. Lena set down her champagne. And maybe call me sometime, not to apologize or make amends, just to talk. Yeah? Claire's voice was small, hopeful. Yeah, we're sisters. That still means something. They hugged briefly, awkwardly. Then Lena left the wedding and drove back to her vineyard feeling lighter than she had in years. Adrian was released on October 15th, 4 years and 2 months after he'd been arrested. Lena picked him up from the prison. He walked out carrying a single bag, wearing clothes that didn't quite fit anymore, looking exhausted and relieved and uncertain all at once. Hey, he said when he reached her car. Hey yourself. She didn't hug him, wasn't sure if that was allowed yet. How does it feel? Surreal. I keep waiting for someone to tell me it's a mistake. It's not a mistake. You're out. For real. They drove to the vineyard. Adrian was quiet, staring out the window at the landscape he'd been separated from for 4 years. When they pulled up to the property, he actually gasped. The vineyard was beautiful, rows of vines turning autumn colors, the hotel rising elegant and modern against rolling hills, the tasting room glowing with warm light and activity. You built this, he said quietly. We built this. Your investment. My execution. No, this is yours. I just provided capital. Capital I couldn't have gotten anywhere else. Lena turned to look at him. This is our partnership. Still 51-49. Still yours and mine. Adrian studied her face. You mean that? Completely. He kissed her then. Not like the kiss at the gala or the desperate kisses before prison. This was different. Grateful and tentative and asking permission. Lena kissed him back. Inside the tasting room, Tom and the staff had organized a small welcome back party. Nothing dramatic, just wine and food, and people who knew Adrian's investment had made all of this possible. To second chances, Tom raised his glass. Everyone drank to that. Later, after everyone had left and the tasting room was dark, Lena and Adrian sat on the porch overlooking the vineyard. What happens now? Adrian asked. Now you rest, recover, figure out who you are outside of prison. And us? Lena considered the question. They'd built something together under impossible circumstances. She'd kept the partnership alive while he was gone, but that didn't mean they had a future beyond business. I don't know, she admitted. 4 years is a long time. We're different people than we were. Are we? I am. I'm not the woman who asked you to kiss her at a gala. I'm not desperate or angry or trying to prove anything anymore. And I'm not the man who took risks without considering consequences. Adrian looked at the vineyard. Prison teaches you that actions matter, that choices echo. So what are you choosing now? To be here, to help you build this, to see where it goes. He turned to her. If you'll have me. Lena thought about everything that had led to this moment. The betrayal, the kiss, the partnership, the arrest, the years of building alone. All of it had been necessary. All of it had shaped her into someone who could run a successful vineyard and forgive her sister and sit here with a man who'd been in prison and see possibility instead of disaster. Yeah, she said. I'll have you. They worked together over the next year. Adrian handled the business side. Investor relations, strategic planning, expansion concepts. Lena managed operations. It was a real partnership this time, not theoretical. They argued about decisions and compromised and occasionally drove each other crazy. It was exactly what they both needed. The hotel expanded. They added another 10 rooms, a spa, a wine education center. Phoenix Reserve won awards. Second act became a cult favorite. The vineyard that had been failing 6 years ago was now one of Napa's most talked about success stories. And somewhere in all of that, Lena and Adrian figured out how to be together. Not perfectly. They still had baggage, still had complicated histories, but they learned how to build something real from the ruins of everything that had come before. Derek sent Lena a LinkedIn message on the vineyard's 5th anniversary. Saw the feature in Forbes. Congratulations. You built something extraordinary. Lena didn't respond. Didn't need to. Derek was part of her past, a necessary catalyst, but not someone she needed to maintain connection with. Claire called once a month. They talked about small things. Her marriage, Lena's work, family news. It wasn't the relationship they'd had before, but it was something. That was enough. Rebecca became the vineyard's official PR consultant, moved to Napa full-time, bought a house 2 miles from Lena's, became the person who reminded Lena to slow down and celebrate victories instead of just chasing the next goal. And Adrian became the partner Lena hadn't known she needed. Not a savior, not a fixer, just someone who understood what it meant to rebuild from nothing and believed she could do anything she set her mind to. 7 years after that kiss at the Rosewood Grand, Lena stood in front of the vineyard she'd saved and the empire she'd built and the life she'd fought for, and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not because everything was perfect. It wasn't. There were still debts to manage, competitions to win, critics to impress. There would always be another harvest, another vintage, another challenge. But for the first time since Derek's betrayal had shattered her carefully constructed life, Lena understood something fundamental. She didn't need perfection. She just needed purpose. And she'd found that in 50 acres of California soil and grapes that turned into stories in bottles. The vineyard wasn't just a business. It was proof that you could take the worst night of your life and turn it into everything worth having. That betrayal could be a beginning instead of an ending. That sometimes the disasters were necessary to clear space for the extraordinary. Adrian found her standing at the edge of the vineyard as the sun set over the hills. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "Everything. Nothing." Lena leaned into him. How much has changed? How much had to break before it could be rebuilt right? Any regrets? A few, but not the important things. She looked up at him. Not you, not this. Good, because I'm not going anywhere. Promise? Promise. I've done my time running from consequences. Now I just want to build something that lasts. They stood together watching their vineyard, their accomplishment, their partnership, their future. And Lena thought about the woman she'd been at that gala 7 years ago. The woman who'd caught her fiancé cheating and decided chaos was better than safety. Who'd asked a dangerous stranger to kiss her and turned that single moment into an empire. That woman had been terrified and reckless and completely out of her depth. But she'd also been brave enough to burn everything down and start over. And that bravery, that willingness to risk everything for the possibility of something better, had made all the difference. The phoenix didn't rise from the ashes because it was perfect or prepared or even particularly smart. It rose because staying in the ashes wasn't an option. Because sometimes surviving means transforming, and transformation means accepting that the person you were can't exist in the life you need to build. Lena had learned that the hard way. Through federal investigations and failed harvests and sleepless nights wondering if she'd made a terrible mistake. Through partnerships that were complicated, and relationships that were messy, and decisions that didn't have clear right answers. But she'd learned it. And that knowledge, that bone-deep understanding that disaster could be the beginning instead of the ending, was worth more than any perfect life she'd imagined before everything fell apart. Come on, Adrian said, pulling her toward the house. We're opening the 2024 vintage tonight, the one from the year I got out. It's not ready. It's ready enough, and we're celebrating. Celebrating what? Being here, being alive, being together despite all the reasons we shouldn't be. He smiled. Pick one. Lena followed him inside to the house she'd built and the life she'd earned and the future she'd fought for. And as they opened a bottle of wine made from grapes that had survived drought and disease and years of neglect to become something valuable, she realized something important. She'd spent years trying to prove she could succeed after betrayal, trying to show Derek and Claire and everyone who doubted her that she was capable of extraordinary things. But the real victory wasn't the vineyard or the awards or the empire. It was sitting here with someone who'd seen her at her worst and her best and chose to stay anyway. It was forgiving her sister not because Claire deserved it, but because holding on to anger was exhausting. It was understanding that perfection was boring and mess was human, and the best stories came from the moments when everything fell apart. The Phoenix Reserve Empire wasn't built on perfect execution or flawless planning. It was built on desperation and stubbornness and a kiss that changed everything. On a partnership between a woman with nothing to lose and a man facing prison who believed in her anyway. On years of mistakes and corrections and learning that success wasn't about never falling down. It was about getting back up and building something beautiful from the wreckage. And that, Lena thought, as she raised her glass to Adrian and to the vineyard and to the future they'd built from ruins, was the real legacy. Not the wine or the money or the recognition, just the proof that you could start with betrayal and end with triumph. That the worst night of your life could become the best thing that ever happened to you. That sometimes you had to let everything burn before you could build something worth keeping.